meeting. I'd like to begin the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You on the wallpaper?
No,
Those are gonna
my
be very
bulletin
dangerous
boards all
sitting right
did
in front of me.
this week because of the humidity, so all I do is just pat them all down.
I lost half my alphabet.
Do you have any revisions to the agenda?
We do not.
So summary of non-public actions from August 21st, 2019. Mr. Myers made a motion to approve the July 16, 2019 non-public minutes. Mrs. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Jamie
All happy.
Faulhaber as CHS mental health clinician at a salary of $45,000 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Daniel Duforney as the LMS physical education teacher at a salary of $53,820 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mrs. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Ms. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Joshua Knight as CHS Director of Athletics at a salary of $76,127.27 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mrs. Hershberger second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Ms. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Babak Bande as CHS math teacher at a salary of $64,123 for the 2019-2020 school year. Ms. Harrison second. The motion carried 5-0-0. Ms. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Nicholas Sika as CHS social studies teacher at a salary of $51,285 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Ms. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Rachel Phillips as CHS English teacher at a salary of $43,513 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Ms. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Matthew Colombo as LMS science teacher at a salary of $45,231 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Elizabeth Anderson as CHS Spanish teacher at a salary of $55,538 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Ms. Hershberger made a motion to accept the resignations of Stephanie Wales, CHS school psychologist, Aaron Brown, CHS English teacher, David Gilmore, LMS physical education teacher, and Amy Perkins, CHS part-time physical education teacher. Ms. McDonald second. Motion carried 4-1-0 with Mr. Burke opposing. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve the request for a student to attend kindergarten at GMS on a paid tuition basis until the family becomes residents of Litchfield, with a refund of tuition if the family moves into Litchfield within 90 days. Mr. Myers seconded the motion. The motion carried 5-0-0. Now we have the principal's presentation. Ms. Lecklider for CHS.
No,
I'm sorry.
And
I'm
actually,
looking right at him.
before Mr. Lonergan starts,
Bill Lonergan.
Wrong meeting.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
want
Like you,
to
because you just hear him thinking,
just to tee this up for the board. So we're going to try a little bit of a different format this year. So in lieu of principals' reports, because a lot of the reports are in writing, we can simply read those and understand what's happening at the school. We'll get to those later on. But what I've asked each principal to do is to come and showcase a program in the school each month. Give the board an opportunity to talk with teachers and professionals that are in the building, students that are in the building, and really it's an opportunity for the public to understand better what's happening in our schools and some of the success stories, right? So that's our purpose. So we'll spend as much time as we need to, have an opportunity for the board to ask questions. But it's Campbell's turn tonight, and I think it's the middle school at our next meeting, followed by GMS, and then followed by curriculum, and then we'll repeat that. So basically, you'll see each school 5 times this year, highlighting 5 programs in each school. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Lonergan for the first crack at this.
Sure. So it was interesting when I was asked to do this early in the summer. I was thinking, boy, I got to get teachers together. I've got to get students together for the second day of school to do this. So I thought, well, okay, now that's going to be a bit of a challenge. So then, of course, the next thing that popped into my head was, who impacts students the most over their 4+ years in high school? And I say 4+ years because the impact actually begins in 8th grade, and it goes beyond senior year in high school. So certainly I said, well, there's advisory, but they don't deal with the 8th graders. And so clearly it popped into my head that school counselors were the ones who impacted every child who comes through Campbell High School. And I think the important piece of this is if you look at what we do with our counseling department, they just have an impact on every area of a kid's life. Whether you're talking about scheduling, course selections, whether you're talking about future planning, if you're talking about their extracurriculars and co-curriculars, statewide testing, their social and emotional well-being, every part of a kid's life gets impacted from midway through 8th grade, again, as I said, all the way through graduating from high school. So we've got I've been nearly 30 years in schools, and this is as tight and as strong a group of counselors working on behalf of our kids that I've worked with. And I worked in an incredible situation with all freshman counselors, but these people really, they do an exceptional job. So I think we need to recognize Jody, number one, Jody Cowan, and our counseling director, who's ready to be a principal in a high school, given all the incredible things she does.
No.
Given what she does amazing work. And it's reflected in Jeff Parsons, our other full-time counselor. It's reflected in Carrie Juris, our part-time counselor, Bill Hicks, our at-risk counselor, and in the new member, Jamie Fallhaber, who's our mental health clinician. Even though technically she's not a part of guidance, she's going to work really closely with them. So I think it's important to get a sense of sort of the totality of what they do and the impact they have on kids' lives. And it starts with 8th grade. So I'm going to turn it over to Jody and to Travis Tucker and to Bill Hicks and to let them sort of perform their magic here. But it really is incredible when you think about this. And I think all too seldom sometimes are they recognized for how much they actually do reach out to kids. And it's amazing in a small school how much you can do when you really work hard at your craft. And I'll let Jody speak to their craft and what they do.
Yeah, and I worked with Bill years ago. Bill and I worked together from 04 to 08 at Pinkerton. Then I worked to Nashua High South. So I've been at some of the largest high schools in the state. Not that that's a lot, but I have been in the amount of work and the amount of time that I spend at Campbell is twice the amount of time that I spent at the largest schools. And it's because of those relationships that you have with kids that you get involved in things that you just wouldn't in a big school. And so there's, a lot of good in that. And just yesterday, I was getting messaged while I'm in the middle of trying to do 35 schedule changes at once from a graduate from 2014 who is applying for police jobs, asking me I need my transcripts. Jody, give me my transcripts. And I'm like, hey, you're on the back burner, buddy. I got 20 in front of me. You were 5 years ago. Let's see you later. Good luck being a cop. Good job. So yeah, they don't, living here in town, I think also gives it a different perspective too. People know where I live. Sometimes they show up at my house and I have to tell them to go away.
I've never done that.
You've never done that. No. And actually, Tina and I are neighbors now, and she hasn't done that yet, so we're good.
I won't.
But it's good. And we're lucky. We have great kids. We do. We have great kids. Very different needs, of course, than Pinkerton and Nashua. That was much bigger and much different. So I think the best way for me, because like he said, guidance is all over the place. I mean, I could give you data like you would never want. I could put you to sleep for weeks. But just maybe explaining what we do at each grade level and then letting Travis just talk about different experiences that he's had and then letting Bill talk about his programs. And the thing about Bill is he works harder than the kids do most often. He really works very hard for them. And then at graduation, when the kids are handing out those carnations, Bill goes home with enough to fill his vase. And so that speaks to Bill and the amount of work that he has to do too. But so in the front of the packet that I gave you, and a couple of edits since then. I gave you kind of we're trying new for this school year. So we try to have the career fair, as you probably know, every other year. It's just, 37 people speaking about the same thing every year. Good to have it every other year. So this year I'm having little roundtable discussions that students will be able to sign up for. So the first one is October 10th, and I have somebody from New Hampshire Auto Dealers Association coming in, somebody from Continental Hair Academy, a representative from Johnson & Wales who's going to talk about sales and marketing and event planning. And then I have a nurse that's going to come in, and kids can sign up and just talk to different people at that event. And then I'm going to have another one December 10th with different speakers, and then sometime again in March. So it gives the kids another opportunity to speak to different people within the community or different professions and get ideas what's out there. The counselors are going to finally, and I've wanted to do this forever, our time gets eaten up, but we're going to go in and meet with advisories in small groups. So we're going to take 3 advisories at a time, once a month on Wednesdays when we have the extra time, and talk about whatever topic I'll come up with, what's pertinent for that month. So clearly we're starting with our seniors. I'm seeing them in a couple of weeks, and we're going to start talking about common applications, or what are you thinking? What are you doing? And that's a priority clearly for all of our seniors. And when I get to the senior year, I'll let you know what we do for them. PSAT Day is Wednesday, October 16th. This year, our seniors, instead of leaving school, we're going to be having different speakers come in. We have people helping with the college application process. Perez is supposed to be getting a speaker. He and I are working on that.
Yep.
Lynn Nagy and Denise Freeman are going to talk about they're going to have a senior project boot camp to help those kids really dig deep by mid-October. Some of them don't dig deep until May. So they're going to really get the kids going nice and early on that too. And Bill Hicks, I know, is going to be running a session about career development, career exploration kind of stuff for some other kids too. So he's going to do that on PSAT Day. So that's going to be run a little bit different. Bill will tell you in a few minutes too about the faculty student mentor program that he has set up, which has already worked amazing things for a few kids within the first few days. The weekly email that Bill and I team up on and send out, we really want that information to get out to the students. So we talked to Jason, is there a way to get it out into the kids' Gmail accounts as well? We're working on that. He's, a little bit backlogged there. So what Bill and I talked about was we want advisors reading that email to their students every Tuesday in advisory. There's so much information that you guys got that. There's so much information that goes in that weekly email that I want. These guys are the ones that really it pertains to, and they don't always get it. So we want advisors talking to their kids Tuesdays, reading that to them. So I've asked for that to start happening, today, because we didn't send it till yesterday. But and then ELOs this year. So for any of those opportunities, internship type opportunities, Julie Green in the Media Lab is going to start going out into the communities and trying to find more opportunities for students to get out there and get some work experience too. So those are just a few things that are fairly new that we're going to do this year. Probably the best thing is for me to work top and go down, and that's starting with the seniors. Of course, we already have seniors booked for Tuesday to start meeting with them. I've met already over the summer with the top 4 seniors in the class and worked on common applications with them. So I spent some time in the summer and got them launched. They were a little anxious. So I said, I have no problem. Let's just come in and do this. We see every single senior multiple times in their senior year. They hate me by the time Christmas comes around, because if I don't know what they're doing by December 1st, then I follow them around the hallways and harass them. I will find them anywhere they are, and they're like, "Oh, geez, here she comes again." I'm like, I feel like I'm always fundraising, but I'm not. I'm just trying to find out. We want to make sure every kid has a plan before they leave, and we want to make sure that we're meeting their needs and their interest. It's not what Jody Callanan tells them they should be doing. It's, what have you found through your sophomore project? What have you found through your senior project? What have you found through career fairs? What have you found through jobs? What do you like? And a lot of times the kids will look at you blankly, and I'm going to say, what don't you like? And let's work backwards. So every student walks out with some idea. And for some kids, that's full-time work and getting a diploma. And if that means success to them, then that's success to them. But we need to make sure every student goes out with a plan. So we work with them through that process very heavily in their senior year. In the junior year, the first part of the year is just a lot of individual check-ins. We're going to be meeting with advisories, but it's right after the holidays, we flipped the switch on the kids and we said, guess what? We're not talking about what's going on in Campbell High School right now with you. We're talking about what are you doing after? And they, what? What do you mean? I'm not a senior yet. Okay, this is the time to really get yourself thinking. So we meet with all of our juniors individually, January, February, and we help them with their senior year schedule. And that's when we start reintroducing them to Naviance. Some of them know the Naviance program really well. Some have looked at it only once in freshman year when we forced them to. So we really make them look at everything. We do have junior college information night. We have recruiters that are outside the cafeteria. Oh my gosh, is it every month? It feels like there's every week there's a recruiter standing out there. They come through quite often. And then also for your junior year, kids are allowed to come in and speak with college admissions reps that come in the building. So starting next week, we have college admissions reps Tuesday through Friday through middle of November, when they have to get back to their office and start reading applications. So we right now have like 67 college admissions reps that are coming in the building. I'm kind of excited about a few. The more selective schools don't necessarily feel like they need to come out to high schools, but we have Boston College is actually coming to Campbell this year. So that's pretty excited. I think Boston University is considering too. So they tend not to think those things. But in my weekly email from yesterday, I put an event that's coming up in Nashua somewhere next Monday, where some of the more selective schools are having an evening where you can go and ask questions about college admissions process and what they're looking for that too. So there's a lot that starts kicking up in junior year. So I expect to see Travis. He's now a junior. I'm sure he'll be in guidance as much as he can, meeting with the college admissions reps. And it's so important because those reps are the ones that read the kids' applications. So it's almost 1-to-1. It's a chance to really make an impression on that person. So, and it's also a great chance for me or one of the other counselors, because we always sit in with the kids, to really talk up those kids and their different ability levels. So it's always a great opportunity. So that will be happening starting next week. Sophomore year is kind of that funky year where you're like, okay, what are we doing? What are we not doing? We definitely pay a lot of attention to our anybody with 504s, or we look at grades a lot for the sophomore year. We, again, will be seeing students in small groups and advisories. But we also get into the health classes a couple of times. And we also talk about and show them different materials just to get their brain flowing about different ways to make money in this world. So really sophomore year is starting to getting them to think during the health classes. And then freshman year, we are in and out of freshman advisory quite a bit, or freshman seminar, I'm sorry. If students don't have freshman sem, we pull them in individually. We meet them. We introduce them to Naviance. We ask them to do career exploration surveys. Again, just trying to get their brains wrapped around life after high school. You know as well as I do, anybody that's a freshman thinks they're going to be in high school forever. But it was kind of a nice conversation with a boy today who is now a senior. And he said, yeah, you told us when we walked in freshman year it was going to go by quick. And he said, I think you were right. I'm like, yeah, that happens. We try to keep you going. So it's a great opportunity in freshman seminar for us to sit with the kids and interact because it's pretty laid back and things that we can do with them in there. So that's really, it's, there's so much that can be done. Of course, the freshmen also take the PSAT. Now they take it every year. I was just saying to Travis, now he's a junior. So this is the year where the PSAT counts because junior year, depending on how well you do, you can qualify for all kinds of scholarships and whatnot. So I had to remind him to keep encouraging him, but it is still the PSAT, just for your own knowledge, it is still paper and pencil method, where the SAT for the juniors, which they take in junior year, which I think I told you was April 15th or 16th of 2020, it's computerized. So I wish the PSAT would also be computerized so they're familiar with the format, but College Board hasn't gotten there yet. So those are just the very, very broad topics that we try to hit with the grades and per grade. Over the summer, I sent every 8th grade parent their own personal parent Naviance login. So if a parent wants to get, not to look career search for yourselves, although I do try every year, still comes up the same thing, but just to get ideas for their own children. It does, obviously, you can put in your likes and dislikes and it'll spit out colleges that fit in your criteria. And so it helps to tailor a lot of those lists too. So very broadly, those are the topics that we try to hit on with the students every year. Travis is I dragged him along. Travis is probably one of those students that you just pray for in every building, because not only does he have a really upbeat personality and is so willing to talk to everybody. And he was in Spain with me 2 years ago, April, when he was a freshman. And you talked to anybody that was, I think, speaking English at least. Yeah. So Travis, he's kind of one of the go-to kids too. So 8th grade parent night, Travis is one of my student presenters at 8th grade parent night. If I need anything to happen or get groups together, I know I can call Travis and he's going to be the one to go find those groups. But I just brought him along, just talk. He comes in for various reasons. And as a freshman, they're walking in, they're just dazed. They're freshmen. Travis, within the first week, wanted to know what his 4-year plan was for graduation. What am I taking? I want my 4-year plan. And you've tweaked it a few times, but you knew what you wanted. So he's just going to talk very briefly about that. And then Bill will give you a little bit of information about his program too.
All right. So good evening, everyone. I'm Travis. I'm a junior this year. So the program with the guidance department really starts in 8th grade because the transition from middle school to high school is really a big one. And that's regardless of what town you live in, that jump is huge because not only is it a totally different environment academically, but also socially. So it started in 8th grade. When they passed out the red programs of studies, I studied that. I read that.
Yay, somebody looks at it. Thank you.
He studied.
Okay, you studied it. Okay, you can help me fix it too.
I like to know what's coming up, and they would always talk to us. They gave us the papers early on, so we had plenty of information on what to do. And then especially when guidance works with student council for the move-up day, and we got to talk to different counselors. I know I met my counselor that day. It just really helped things move smoothly into high school. Starting off freshman year, it is a scary day. I remember my first day of freshman year. And they just help a lot between making scheduling a breeze. I have always gotten the ideal schedule that I've wanted. I've never not had a class that I've wanted.
A little louder.
I've had a great schedule for the past 3 years, which is definitely very hard, especially balancing certain AP classes and honors classes with smaller numbers. Sometimes it can be hard to find a section of this where something else is running, especially with band and other things. And that's never really been a problem, especially for me and other kids that I know. So they make scheduling definitely very easy for us. I know it's not for them, and that's hard in a small school. But coming in, they're very accessible. You can just walk in and set up an appointment. Sometimes you can walk in right there. Sometimes you can come back the next day. They're very accessible. I was there freshman year, first week. I got my blue sheet of paper and set my planner for the next 4 years. And that was not an issue. That was something that I was able to do. And then from there, I was able to already start looking at colleges. I already had an idea of what I wanted to do with my career and what path I wanted to take. And whether I was with Miss Callahan, Miss Juris, or Mr. Parsons, I've seen them all. That they were very helpful with that. And they were accessible. It was easy. And it's not just with scheduling, and it's not just with colleges. They're in the hallways. They're available to students. Sometimes there have been days where I just need a quick break, and I've gone into Mr. Parsons' office and just had to say something. Sometimes we all have those days, and it's not. It's good to have that support, especially as a teenager in high school these days. There's a lot of different situations going on. So the guidance department really helps keep kids engaged in the process. It helps kids with the scheduling a lot. And I think they've made definitely everything easy, especially planning after high school. Thank you.
You mentioned you met with your counselor at the end of 8th grade. Does your counselor follow you throughout the year? So you have like one primary one? Well, that's good, because when you were saying that you sit in on the meetings, I think it's important for a counselor to really know you. So that's good to hear. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely get to know the kids really well. It's Carrie Juris is part-time. So when she's not there, her kids become my students. And then when Jeff is backlogged, his kids become my students. Or if a girl's having a breakdown, they don't necessarily want to talk to a male, so they become my students. We share kids. I mean, you primarily are assigned to that one person for the same 4 years, but we take on whoever needs us at that moment. Yeah. Well, Bill.
You ready? Okay.
Last
I'm
one.
sorry, I didn't pass these out earlier.
Handouts.
I'm not sure about the protocol.
That's
I'll
Thank
just
you.
give you a little handout. All right, so anyway, I'm Bill Hicks, and I run the Student Support Center, known as the Alternative Counselor, which means that I find all kinds of things for students. So I just have a little synopsis here for you. I'll give you the quick background. 12 years ago, I was asked to come to Campbell High School to work with students that were acting out students, drug issues, and 22 kids a year dropping out of our little school. There were about 600 and some odd students when I first started, so it's bigger than it was now. So I can't take all the credit, but in those years when I first started, I'm a trained counselor. I've been in this business for 48 years now, and I love what I do. My job is to make sure that every student feels successful, every student feels good about themselves, every student has some hope. I deal with students from the heart. They know that. They know that I care about each one of them. So when I first came, I said, listen, this typical program doesn't always work for all those kids. And we can have the guidance department, but they can't always do all of the things that need to be done with all the different kinds of students that we're dealing with. So I went to the State Department. I was up there for a good week, and I got to know a lot of people up in the State Department. They got to know me, and I kept going back and talking with people, and I said, listen, I need some help from you guys about what do we do with students who don't fit the mold, who are struggling in school, who maybe can't do all the credits in a particular school system. So what do we do with all that? Well, anyway, they were extremely helpful. There were two women there that helped me so much. They gave us money. So at this point, any student that needs help, and most of my parents can't afford a lot of the things that I'm asking them to do, so they don't have to pay anything. And the grants that I've gotten through the state, which have continued for those 12 years and will continue, we only pay 25% of whatever it costs for a student to go anyplace. Okay. So that was my first job, was to get something going. I faced probably 15 students in the beginning, mainly ninth graders, mainly boys, obviously. I say that obviously because we always say, the boys act out more, they're more blah, blah, blah. So through the years, what's happened is more acting out students when I first came to more emotional issues now. Last year, my program was 90% women. It has changed. It has changed dramatically. My approach hasn't. Society has, but I'm still the rock. I'm the one that sits there, listens to them. Now, that's the nice thing about my job versus Jody's and the other counselors, is that I'm available every block of the day. I'm there every morning at 6 a.m. and usually stays on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday was Saturday isn't a detention anymore. Saturday is all those students who make mistakes need to come and talk with me about why they made mistakes. And then we do some skill building, whatever. So anyway, Student Support Center is a whole bunch of stuff. What I say to my students is, you let me know what you need. Most of the students in there have found no success since maybe second, third, fourth grade. A lot of them have been suspended since whenever. They were sitting in the hallway in the fourth grade because they'd act up. So I have a group of students, and I average about 30 to 35 students a year. And those students need support. And that's why we call it the Student Support Center. I'm available all day long for any student that needs to be there. It's not an easy task to get students who don't feel good about themselves, who aren't successful, to trust an adult. What do most of my students do when they don't trust adults and they don't talk to adults or talk to whoever, parents, etc.? They hide it. They become discipline problems. They become people who use drugs on a regular basis or alcohol or whatever, because they suppress that stuff all the time. They don't want to be able to talk about what it is. I teach my children how to communicate. Within 4 years that they're with me, I do pick them up. That not all students come in at 9th. I have 10th. I have new students that join us. I'll give you an
For
senior
example.
year.
I'll give you an example of a couple of students. So the job is endless. The nice thing about it is the rewards at graduation. Here's the touching thing this year. The student said to me at the end of the year, Bill, I don't know what we're going to do without you next year. And so they said, I think we all should get tattoos. And the tattoo should say, if lost, return to Bill. It was like, it's like these students come in with all these anxieties, all these fears, all these whatever. Mm-hmm. My job, you walk out of here knowing that you're a whole human being and you can participate. Again, most of my students don't participate in sports. They don't participate in clubs because they don't think they can measure up. All right. That's why we don't have dropouts, because those kids know that I'm going to make sure they get there, whatever they have to do. So we do all different things. We do the Londonderry program. We do the Nashua program. We do online classes. We do sometimes the HiSAT GED program, and a whole bunch of other things. When I first started, I also found out that the parents needed a lot of support. Most parents felt embarrassed. They don't want to call a teacher. They didn't want to come into the building because every time they came in, it was something bad about their child, and they feel terrible as an adult saying, I'm a terrible parent. I ran parent groups. Parent groups were extremely successful. I had to do that with the first 3 groups of students that I taught, the first 3 years that I was there, because they needed skills. And it's amazing that in our society, we don't teach parents how to be parents. As I always say, easy to get pregnant, difficult to be a parent. And that's where I pick that up a little bit. And I try to get them to understand what the adolescent mind is going through, etc. So as you can tell, it's passionate for me. This isn't a job. This is a passion for me. This is something that I feel all of my students, if I wasn't there, if the program didn't exist, they'd be in the street. They'd be aimlessly walking around, probably not productive people in society. My job is to make sure every one of those kids is productive. I get them ready to go to class. I get them ready to take the PSATs. I get them socially and emotionally say, I'm ready. I can do it. Okay, so that's my little spiel. I can't do this all alone. So a couple of years ago, I think we've been now 3 or 4 years, I do peer mentors. Who do kids talk to mostly? Peers. Peers on peers. So I run a program. I do a workshop for these kids who volunteer to want to be peer mentors. And it's a range of kids. It's not just the National Honor Society kids. It's a whole range of kids that sign up for this. Their job is, I give them the workshop, I give them some skills on how to talk to students, how to, if they run into a problem, what they need to do, how to resource out, et cetera. And then we talk on a regular basis. Peer mentors are extremely successful. They talk with students. So I can find a student who's like a freshman, for example, who's having a real struggle. I put a senior or a junior with those kids. Amazing how much they do. Then I said, how about teachers? Now, here's an old saying I have. I have a lot of old sayings because I'm an old guy. But
We weren't going to point that
teachers
out.
know.
Okay.
Teachers know their subject, but they don't know their subjects. All right, the subjects in front of them, the feelings that some of those kids have. Some teachers very good at that. Some teachers just really good at their craft, but not this, not the personalization. And a lot of people don't want to do that, don't feel comfortable with that, and that's okay. That's why we're there. But in the past, I've done this before in other schools, is teacher mentors. If you talk to a prisoner today, one of the things the prisoners, they say to them, who are the 2 most important people in your life? Mom and a teacher. That's what prisoners say today. If you go and interview them, that was a survey that was done. So recently, actually beginning of this year, actually at the end of last year, I said to the teachers, here's a program. What do you think about you taking on 1 or 2 students that is really struggling for whatever reason? Could be academics, could be social, could be you name it. Would you like to take on 1 or 2 of these students? Now thinking, when I did my presentation back in June, just to let the teachers know I was planning on this. And I said the first presentation in our first meeting, Bill says, come on, do a little talk, see what you want to do, see if we can get maybe 4 or 5 teachers to do this, which is what I was thinking.
4 or 5.
4 or 5. I said, if I can get 4 or 5, that's a big deal. So I put my paperwork together and do all this stuff, and I make up 8, thinking that that's way too many. 14 teachers showed up. 14, and I've had 2 more say to me, I'd really like to get involved with that. What I'm teaching them in this teacher mentor group is I'm teaching them about the adolescent brain. I'm teaching them how to do an introduction, how to talk to students, how to have a personal relationship with the student. Good example, new student comes into school and having a hard time, very hard time.
Very hard time.
Okay, extremely hard time. Nurse calls me, she says, Bill, can you come down and help me out, talk with this kid, talk a little bit. I said, let's try one of the teacher mentors. So I go over to one of the teacher mentors and I say, would you like to take? Yeah, okay. So I do a little introduction with the teacher mentor and the student. Sit in their room for a half an hour or so. I don't know what goes on. I said, go ahead, do your thing. Girl's ready to drop out of school, hate this place, etc. End of the day, she comes down to my room because she has study in my room. I said, so how'd it come? I love that teacher. I said, what happened? Well, she listened to me. She talked to me a little bit about all the anxiety I was having. She even talked about a project that I could do in her room someday. And she also said that if I was really feeling uncomfortable in a room, that she would have contact with the teacher so she could leave in a few minutes if she needed to take a little break and come in. Powerful. Teachers in that building are powerful. They don't realize how powerful they are until I give them the skills to do it. that's an example of, I want every student in that building to feel as though they can go to a teacher, they can go to an adult, because, what's going to happen, right? So we talked about that in our introductory meeting where we had the judge come and talk about mental health. My job is mental health. It's keep those students doing what they need to do. If I need to refer out, if I need to do whatever I want to do. So there's the teacher program, and and I like this little saying. I always like to see my little thing about why I might not be learning. Okay, and you can see that I'll not risk investing in learning what you are teaching until I know I can trust you and know that you care. Big deal. Okay, the biggest thing in a student's life is that teacher cares. All right. So the other thing we do at school is the mentor program. And I'm a trained mentor person from way back. The mentor program, in other schools, I had peers doing the mentor program. In this school, it's basically, I do the mentor program, the mediation program. Let me wind up here. The mediation program is helping students if they're having a difficulty in school, being bullied by someone, rumors, texting, something. So we have this conflict between two students. How do you solve the problem? You have them sit down together in the room together. Now you don't have electronics. You can't just sit around and say, oh, you know what Mary said, and or let's all pick on Johnny over there because he's da-da-da-da-da. So I get Johnny and Mary together, and we sit down at the table and we talk. As I tell my students, it's just like going to court. I said, Mr. Perez is the judge. And I said, Mr. Perez says to me, listen, I don't want to listen to all that stuff. I'm too busy as a judge. I need to have all these other things done. So you go in the other room, you figure something out, and then come back to me and tell me that that's what you agreed to, and I'll go along with it. So that's what I tell the students. So that's what we do. They come in, they sit with me, I'm the mediator, and each person gets to say their side of the story. And by the end of the time that both of them are able to talk about why they didn't like each other and clear things up, at the end, we do handshakes. And 90% of the time, they walk away so that they may not be friends, but they also are not going to continue the acts that they were doing. And you can see the mediation thing there. It's like they come up with some ideas about how they want to handle the mediation. They tell me how they are going to get along and not have this occur again. All right. A big deal, because bullying is terrible in our society because of electronics instead of all that. So again, mine's all personalization. It's all, let's deal with what real life things are. And that's how we do what we do. And so I'm just happy to be at Campbell. Great group of kids, great staff. And I can't, say enough about Bill. He's been a supporter of anything I say to him. He'll say, well, go ahead, try it. Okay. So that's what you like to hear in a principal is, go ahead. If you want to try, go ahead. I'll back you. If it doesn't work, that's okay. All right. So far, pretty successful. As I said, we haven't had a dropout in maybe 11 years. I've been in there 12, and we used to be the worst in the state for dropout rates. We were high. We were like for the size school. So
We have none. We had some non-grads, but they went back and finished.
Doesn't matter. I may have a kid who doesn't quite finish up all he's supposed to finish up, and then we'll work with him after 12th grade. So.
Bill, I think you're being very modest because you do so much more than you just said.
Well,
Thanksgiving, you make sure everybody has a Thanksgiving meal. He knows who needs gift cards. You will work behind the scenes and nobody knows what you do. When I started working at Campbell, those black sweatshirts and hoods scared the heck out of me. And to this day, I still see those kids and I get hugs. Have you seen Bill? You made such a tremendous, I'm going to cry. Tremendous. I can't even put words to it. You were the only person that cared in some of these kids' lives. You were the only person who cared that mom left for a week and left cold cuts. Figure it out, boys.
If you're lucky.
We are very lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Thanks.
And speaking, yes, certainly, absolutely. So much of what happens in school counseling offices that are really good school counseling offices happens under the water,
No one
under the
knows.
radar. It happens in ways that provide incredible support for kids all the way along. And I sometimes struggle because I'll hear not at Campbell, but I hear complaints about school counselors and they never saw my kid. I don't hear those complaints. Okay. And if I do,
I do.
um,
How many more times a day can I say them?
Better faces than me.
yes, yeah, it's just, and truly, they work amazingly well on behalf of our kids. And so much of it, you don't see what's happening. And we haven't talked about, CT programming and getting kids involved in those things. There are so many tentacles to what the
That's the
counselors
fun
do.
stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it just is, it's a reflection of how complex, in particular, Bill, you mentioned sort of our traumatized kids. And so much of what we see in schools now, and again, Justice Broderick with mental health, there's so much more counseling, which is why we don't refer to guidance counselors anymore. Okay, they're school counselors, and they're school counselors because it's not just guiding a student towards, courses and college or courses, and it's just spread so far all over the place.
Well, and one thing, Bill, too, was it class of 2016? So when those group of girls were freshmen, you and I did a group with them. And it was a group of 8 girls.
Okay.
And we made it work. We weren't very popular with some of the staff because they were missing a little bit of academic time, maybe 20 minutes. We used the other part for their lunch or advisory. And we had groups with them. But all those girls kept saying, and they'll still reach out to me on Facebook, and they graduated in 2016 saying, we missed you and Bill. Can we come back and do a group? I'm like, no, we don't do groups with adults. Thank you.
But you know what? Bill's room is the only place where some kids feel like they can
Yeah.
be themselves.
Be themselves.
And-
Yeah.
You can't say that, but like they can go in there and they absolutely, you see all sorts of characters in there and they're just completely themselves,
Yeah.
where they're afraid to be like that out in the
In the
general pop.
cafeteria. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the cafeteria, lunchtime. Bill helps monitor what's going on in the lunchroom for a lot of lunches. Mike Perez takes a lot of the lunches. I get Mondays. Yay, Mondays. But his room is full of students who aren't necessarily comfortable sitting in the main so they'll sit in Bill's space. So it's definitely, we couldn't survive without that safe haven for the kids, that's for sure.
It's an interesting piece too. When I first came to Campbell, people were talking about Bill's room. Kids would talk about Bill's room. Staff members would talk about, everybody was talking about Bill, and I'm thinking, here I am.
How about you, Bill?
But he's the one staff member in the school who's known by his first name by everybody.
Right,
I'm going to Bill's room.
right.
Okay, and it's not a fearful thing or a shameful thing. It's a camaraderie. We're in this together. We're figuring it out. So, it's just a piece of that larger puzzle of how to make kids feel safe in schools and provide them opportunities to be successful. And so much of it is about academics, but at the same time, it's about all those other aspects of their lives.
And if you want us to come back again later, I could bring some teacher mentors and some peer mentors, and they can just kind of talk about what they do. Just give you like a little synopsis.
Yeah.
Not a
I think
big deal,
it's
like 10 minutes.
I think it's wonderful that you're reaching out and that teachers are reaching out to you to get the tools they need to build those kinds of relationships with their student. I think a lot of teachers want to, but are strapped for time. They've got 100 students over the course of the day, and it's hard to connect with each and every one of them, especially at the high school level. And I think that's amazing. I was we called it SOS. It was students offering support in high school. And I was one of those students. I guess I could have been a peer mentor. And it's just so helpful to have those eyes and ears out amongst the crowds of kids, just kind of keeping an eye on everybody and making sure everybody's okay. And then if you really need help, to refer them to the right resources. But I think what you do is just incredible. And the fact that we haven't had a dropout student in the last 11 years, I think
Unbelievable.
that's fully attributable to the work that you
And we
that you all do.
diffuse. You hear about all the crazy stuff going on in schools and setting up safety
Absolutely.
and all this stuff.
Yeah,
I don't worry about that at Litchfield because I think I diffuse, or everybody else in the
Right.
counseling department diffuses that so that they
Yeah.
don't feel angry and they need to come back and revenge in any way. It's
Right.
like,
But your peer mentors, though, the one thing that's interesting is it's not just peer mentors in high school here.
Yeah.
They also go down to the middle school.
That's amazing.
that's true, I
Yeah.
forgot that. They do, this past year, I talked to Tom Leckleiter and he said,
Mhm.
you know, do you want to do something down here? So I presented it to the teachers. And they were like, well, you know, no, because after they have an after-school program, and usually the students that are in there are struggling with something.
Mhm.
And so we had 6 students that went down every day, Monday through Thursday, from 2:30 to 3:30 for
Late
that
bus.
session, and they work miracles. They really
It's
do.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, thank you for all that you do. I just, it's so important. These kids can't learn until their basic needs are met,
Right.
and you're meeting those needs. And thank you.
You mentioned that the kind of the composition of those who you work with has changed over the years, and that when you first started here, there were many more kids at Campbell. But I'm wondering if has the need, are you working with more kids nowadays? Like, has that need just, even though the school size has gone down, then that population that you're working with has increased?
I think at the beginning, it was like putting out fires
Mm.
because we had a lot of acting out. I had students that would take the trash barrel out in the front of the room. They'd get upset with something. They'd walk down the hall swearing away, go out the front door, knock over the trash barrels and get in their car and leave. Those kinds of students. So they'd get right up in front of a classroom teacher and say, F off, you know, I don't want to be here. I don't like you, that kind of. So it was like, let's deal with
Yeah.
what's going on. Why are you so angry? So it was a lot of fires that I was dealing with, and I probably had like 15 at that time. And I think as time has gone on, my reputation is it's okay. You can go in and talk with that guy. And it has changed. It's much more, it's hidden. They don't act out as much anymore. I worry about that because I wish the students did say some stuff every once in a while, but they keep it underground and you have to really dig to get them to start talking about what's going on inside. And that may be because of electronics. You know, it's like, let's just text somebody and tell them about stuff, but I don't have to communicate with you.
Do you as guidance counselors work with the guidance counselors at LMS and the guidance counselors at GMS to kind of see how that continuum progresses? Because I know we have kids at the elementary school who have childhood traumas happen to them and are having a really tough time. And the more I know you specialize in kind of the adolescent brain, but the more kind of consistency that we can give those kids all the way up through, I think the better off they'll be when they get to you.
I always say the best paid teachers and the best trained teachers should be our elementary teachers.
Mhm.
They should have smaller classrooms. They should be able to deal with those students then, because all of my students, as I said before, all started to fail, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, and they just continued. And they, then you fall behind. Then they got suspended. Then so
It's
yeah.
definitely
Yeah,
snowballs.
I mean, if I had more time, I would like to go down to the elementary school and do more things down there to get, even running parent groups down at the
Well,
elementary.
that's what I was thinking. I mean, I consider myself a pretty good parent, but this adolescent brain thing is completely thrown
Sure.
me for a loop.
Sure.
And I'm
I'll second that.
relatively educated. I have a background in kids and psychology. So
It's different when it's your own kid.
I know,
They
right?
can-
As a parent myself, I would love to, to just sit and listen to you talk about what's going on in my kid's brain and how I can help and, how I can.
Maybe we'll start it up again.
Conversations.
I have this, the title of the course that we come to
Yeah.
is, what is this thing called adolescence?
I love it.
But you have a very calm demeanor because I can go in there all fired up and you talk. Well, you all see,
Yeah.
talk me
No.
down, and it's okay, Liz. We'll get through it. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
It's okay to make you feel that you're not a failure. That's what most people
Yeah.
feel. Oh,
Yeah.
and
Right.
what's my neighbor going to think if that?
Oh my gosh,
You know,
we're all just doing the best we
thinking
can.
about that. Just
Yeah.
and I also say to parents, don't ask your child, hey, you got your homework done? You got your room cleaned up? I said, that's not a relationship with your child. The most important relationship with your child is sitting down, listening to them. I said, get in the car, drive around, go have a little dinner. Just the two of you sit and talk about whatever.
Yeah.
And they need that. All right. Because they think you're the bad guy. You're always picking on me. And that's what they all say. Oh my,
Yeah.
you're always yelling at me, telling what to. But But if you
I love it.
do
Well,
that
thank
relationship.
you. Again, this is
But to answer your question is yes. Depending on whoever the 8th grade counselor is. So this past year was Lynn Ellis. So Lynn and I spent a lot of time together starting around December, training her about new courses, she's awesome. So she'll go into the classrooms and she'll prep the 8th graders about what course selection is. So when we come in mid-February, they're not looking at us like they've never seen us. So I sit with her, and then we have a chat to chat, we call it chat to chat meeting that LMS runs. And we go down to, and I always invite Bill, I invite Mike Perez, I invite, our school psychologist was there this year, and usually our freshman case manager, if we have one. We go down, we talk with people at LMS, talk about each student, what the concerns are or not concerns are, or things to watch out for. So I take notes, and, we're able to already pinpoint some students to watch out for on that freshman orientation day. And when a few of them acted out last week, I was like, oh, yes, okay, I remember that name. So we have those conversations. And if something bigger, like in the case of a parent death, comes about, what's awesome is the LMS teachers, if they hear about it first, they'll send me a message. So I have definitely a lot of interaction with LMS. I note with Jocelyn at GMS. I think we need to, as a district, would be helpful to get together a little bit more.
Does Mary work with you?
Well, part of what we did when we started last spring was we started talking about social emotional learning and what types of programs are out there that we can use K through 12. And I ended up finding one that's fantastic and free. So 2X, fantastic and free.
like those.
Yeah, and supposedly very, just a lot of really good results with. So I passed that on to Mary, and I know that we're going to meet again coming soon. But it was each school psychologist, a counselor from each building, and it was Mary and Devin. So we're starting to look at that curriculum too to figure out what's going to work best. But if we have something that we're all using that we can just
That
continue,
consistency
that
is
makes
there.
sense, then it's going to make us, even better community that way. Yeah.
Can I say one thing? I have to say, when we lost our house, and we moved to the house we're in now, which is horrible, we had a little problem with some carpentry in our pool and everything, our liner, and I reached out to the principal at the high school at the time. And I said, can you suggest anything? I mean, we just don't have enough money, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I know just what to do. Bill gave me 4 students. They were the most respectful kids I have ever met in my life.
Good job, Bill.
I mean, just, yes, Mrs. Flynn, no, you don't have to call me that. We're not in school. No, I have to call you that. I said, okay, fine. They worked so hard to help, get us on track there. And the thing I remember most is one of the students turned around and said, now I know what I want to do with my life. And I said, that is the best gift you can give Mr. Hicks. I'm sure he'd love to hear that. I just wanted to attest to the fact that somebody who's not, a person that lives in Litchfield has had experience with this, and it does work. It does work.
We gave them a purpose,
Gave me purpose.
Purpose.
right? If
Goal.
you can help somebody else.
It was a great fit. They even refused the money my husband offered them.
No,
They
they weren't
refused it.
supposed to do that.
I'm sure they wanted it.
One of the things that we get every year through Naviance, one of the good things that they can come up with is we have an alumni report that's 47 pages. So it's painful, but it's great reading for you guys. So I'll make sure if you want to give this to Mike to pass on, but it talks about enrollments in colleges and kids who didn't continue on after the first year, kids who did continue on. It breaks it way down. And then another report that just came through today, which was a little odd, was an SAT cohort final report. So this was, I believe, for the class of 2019 data. And at the end of it is intended college majors and the number of test takers for each major that the kids said they were going to choose. And then also a list of schools that the students chose to send their SATs to, which was a little interesting too. Not surprisingly, UNH was the number one. They had 30 students from Campbell send their SAT scores. SNU had 15. UMass Amherst was third. That was a little bit surprising to me. They had 13. UVM had 10 of our students. So this is a really interesting report too. And it also tells you, is it a private college or a public college that these scores were chosen to get sent to. So if you want to pass this on to Mike too, but it's a lot of data. The alumni report, that's 47 pages. It is information from the classes of 2011 to 2019. It's what it looks like.
I think I presented that.
You did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was it through the 2019 class?
No, it's through 2018.
So I guess this is the most recent.
Yep.
So if you want to share that too. So it's a lot of information. That's the other side of the job. When I first went into master's degree, this is my second profession, and I thought I was getting into academic assistance back in 2002. And I think I'd say it's now 40% academic and 60% social emotional. So it's completely changed in 17 years of this job too. And it's just the way our world is. And, you talk about social media and just how its effect on students too, but it doesn't matter if it's February vacation, if it's April vacation, if it's summer, or if it's Christmas. Every vacation, a student will find a way to reach out to me personally, usually through my own daughter, and report concerns about a peer and something that they've posted online, like every vacation. And it gets you in the stomach because your brain's not quite at school. And then I'll get, Mom, so-and-so wants to get in touch with you. And okay. All right. And so we send the police out to check on the kids if it's a vacation time and whatnot. But it's great being in a small community where the kids will know how to get to me and to be able to report concerns, and then we can take care of them from there too. So those are the awesome things about small communities.
So I want to, this is our first go round, but I thank you for coming tonight and sharing a glimpse into what happens in counseling. And, we spend so much time on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Sometimes the 3 R's, we forget about the 4th R, which is all about relationships. And if you don't have that piece working right, then reading, writing, and arithmetic doesn't come together. So thank you for keeping that first and foremost for us tonight. And I'm sure if there are other questions, we'll reach out with those.
We know where to find you.
Thank you very
Stop by
much.
the
You
house.
can show up on my doorstep. We live near each other. It's appropriate. With a glass of wine.
Just don't show up in my house.
I just walk by it every day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you got this too. Have a good night.
Don't leave yet.
Jody, can you hang out for just a minute? We're going to hit the college report in a minute, and I want to make sure. Yeah.
So next is correspondence.
Yeah, we didn't have any.
Don't have any anymore.
It's all on Facebook.
All right. So
Yeah.
It is all on Facebook. We got a lot on Facebook.
Yeah.
that's right. So the first follow-up I want to have, and the reason I asked Ms. Callanan to stay is because the analysis of college attendance by CHS graduates. So Michelle's done a lot of work trying to get a handle on this, but I want to walk across the
Jody's
2019
help.
data. Yep, absolutely. And so basically, if you look at that first column, we had 114 graduates this year. Of those 114, 22 are are attending 2-year schools and 74 are attending 4-year schools. So 96 of the 114 students have gone on to a 2 or 4-year school. So that's 84.21% of our graduates. And if you look down that column, you can see that that's pretty average. It's plus or minus a few percentage points from what we've seen over the last 5-10 years. But the column that caught the board's attention was the next one that said attended selective schools. And we had 20 students who decided to attend a selective school. And basically out of the 96 going to colleges, that means 20.83% are attending a selective college. And out of the total number of graduates, 17.54. So roughly 1 out of 5 students are going to a selective school. And if you scroll down in the report, and I'm going to stop on the first page so that you have it. You can see Anna Maria College is written 3 times. And basically that means there are 3 students who applied to Anna Maria College and got accepted there. But none chose to attend. So the attending column is blank, okay? And if you come to the next, you can see the Arizona State University, which is in yellow because it is on the list of selective schools. And so that is a national listing that comes out, and Arizona State last year was designated as a selective school. We had 3 students who applied and got accepted, and we had 2 who chose to attend. Okay, so those 2 attends then become the statistic that you saw on the page before, if that makes sense. And then the next columns are basically the number of acceptances that we had, 336, and 41 were accepted at selective schools. And you can see Arizona, it was the 3 accepted, 2 attended. All right, so that just gives you a better sense. And then if you look down the list of yellow highlighted schools, you get a sense of what is a selective school on the list by national ranking. Did I summarize that
You did. Yeah.
clearly? Okay, because
I took that from the U.S. News and World Report for their selectivity because there's so many different resources that you can use for that. You can go to Peterson's. I mean, there's endless, but this one seems to be the most consistent and most preferred.
What are the characteristics of a selective school?
Cost.
The schools, yep.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's you're looking at SAT scores that
scores.
are
Class
way
rank.
above average.
Yeah.
So
Class
these are the
ranks.
tough schools to get into.
Yeah, they pride themselves too on maybe having 17% acceptance
Acceptance.
rate. Any of your Ivy Leagues, of course.
Much less.
Yeah.
6%.
6%. Yeah, it's so that's yeah.
Okay.
I can't believe how many kids are going to Plymouth State.
We have a lot of kids that go to Plymouth State every year.
In southern New Hampshire, do they offer like they're not they're a private school, aren't they? They're not a state-run unit,
No,
They're part of the state college
they had
system.
are they?
2 years ago, there was that big article. They kind of got a bad rap. I mean, it's a bad rap for their online program being a lot of
Yeah.
nonprofits accuse them of running it for profit.
Yep.
Correct.
I believe the article I read said they're putting a big push on campus, correct?
Right, and so SNU will state that they have a 97% acceptance rate.
On campus.
Yeah, they just say we have a 97% acceptance rate.
I mean, the Great Little School, I
Well,
think they're
a lot of
putting
kids
to
are
get more
going
kids on
there.
campus.
I used
For
to.
the class of 2019, we had a ton of kids. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Just looking at the journey, I was just surprised how few are going to UNH. Is that a low number this year? Or is that?
It's a lower number than in the past few years. The class of 2018 and class of 2019 definitely only had a handful each. Class of 2017 had a number. They had like 14 or 15.
I can tell you,
Sometimes
my
it's
niece
cyclical,
got admitted to, or she got accepted to Northeastern and UNH. But the price difference with what they were able to offer her at Northeastern, they gave her more in scholarships. So her tuition was cheaper than going to UNH.
Yeah,
Messed
That's-
up.
game.
And it is. I always tell people, they look at me like I'm nuts. I said, well, don't rule out the $60,000 school because that $60,000 school may be cheaper than Keene State in the end. So you really go
That
for
was
it
shocking.
and then make a decision. You
Right.
got to
See
know.
what you get.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, personally, I'm lucky that my daughter's one of those. I always said, no way am I going to pay for you to go to a private school. You're going to have to work your butt off. And with academic and athletic money, she pays 40%, 48% of the tuition cost. But so it's much cheaper than
It's
Keene
better
and
than-
Plymouth
right.
is. So
Yeah.
guess what? I guess you can go. Right. You might eat a lot better since they're number 8 in the country with their food. So that's where the money's going. Something
Full
else
meal
you had
plan.
said too.
Yeah.
You guys said something about Plymouth and SNU that just, and I couldn't, SNU, that was it. They give a ton of money.
That's what I was wondering, what the appeal
Oh,
was.
really? They
Ton
do.
of money. So their price tag, when you look at it, you're thinking, oh my goodness, $42,000.
That's, I was perusing that,
They
yeah.
throw $25,000 at the kid like it's nothing. So
Back on the list.
Number one.
Some ridiculous number.
what's that?
In that article I read last, I think they have something like 70,000+ online students.
Yeah.
Or something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, a huge
Ridiculous.
amount.
They're in
Yeah.
Phoenix.
Which is how they
They are,
support.
and they're built. They're
Oh,
building like crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Engineering school.
Yep.
Yeah.
They make it
They
beautiful.
are. Yep. So it's, it's the money they can get back. I mean, Franklin Pierce is another one of those schools in state that gives a ton of money too. So a lot of times it becomes a lot cheaper. I was looking at something for a parent yesterday about language. Parent didn't want her student to drop Spanish unless I could prove that her son wouldn't need language in college.
Yeah, oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Oh,
just
not even.
not
Okay.
any. And
We already had that discussion. I'm
Yeah.
like, can he take sign language for his third year? I tried.
3 years, one language.
at
Yeah.
Pinkerton, they ought to offer it.
They have it at Pinkerton.
Yeah, so I had
That's
to go
interesting.
through Keene and Plymouth, and they don't have a language requirement for admissions there. So I was looking at that, and then for some reason, Keene's price tag jumped out, and it's over 30. It's like 31 something now for Keene.
Wow.
Yeah, I was.
You don't get any help because that's the
Mm-mm.
sale price.
Yeah, that's
school,
the
too.
sticker price is the sticker price, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, it's amazing when you look at those numbers and you just think that's what you're going to pay. And
Yeah.
I always tell the kids, hurry up and wait because you apply, then you send in your FAFSA, then you wait to see what package comes out.
Right.
And even that, then that's not the end of it because you wait for all of your acceptances to come in and then you maybe pick your favorite 2. And then you can go back to that favorite college and say, well, I really want to come here to UNH, but Colby Sawyer is giving me $5,000 more money than you. Can you? So it sometimes feels like
It's a
buying a
process.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we start junior year.
And sometimes I
Huh.
pray for people in sophomore year to start even going to just college fairs. And that's why I like the sophomore project
Mm.
because I really feel like that's the kid's first opportunity to get out there in many
Yeah.
cases and say, I'll coach, my brother's little league team or whatever some
Yeah.
kids may do. And that's at least going to tell you, do you like working with kids or not?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it can rule stuff out. It may not seem like it's a very in-depth project, but when you stop and think about, they're still learning something from that
What
experience.
that experience means,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
So-
definitely. Yep.
That's why that's a good place to have that too.
Any other questions on that? So I think it's great that we've got, that many years worth of data and now a better grasp on exactly what we mean by the selective piece. So,
That's great to know.
and this class in particular, that rate was up for whatever reason. I don't know if you have thoughts on why, last year we were at 6% selective. This year was 17%. I mean, do you have a sense of why the class of 2019 may have been more ambitious on that, or?
The kids?
It's each year it's so interesting too when you start comparing groups. We're gonna have that again with this
Yes, we
current
are. With
senior
this
class.
current class is
Ooh.
going to be.
Our top 20 is like, why am I only number 22? I've gotten all A's. I'm like, oh wait, I got simmered down.
I'd be
Yeah.
surprised if we didn't have more selected colleges.
Uh-huh.
this year.
Oh,
I'd be
we
surprised if
absolutely
that
will.
didn't happen.
So- I've seen it often is that the students are just more competitive with each other in a
With each
positive
other.
Yeah.
competitive way. But the point is maybe that's what drove that because I actually 17.5 4% is the highest on this chart. So you've never had that number, but maybe it just fuels itself by personality of the class.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I keep thinking back to other years too. And yeah, I mean, 2014, I remember how competitive they were. And it almost seems like it's almost every other year, but it's not going to hit this year. This group is ready to go. And it's funny because they'll say to me, where am I ranked again? You're number 3. Okay, well, what's my GPA to number 2? I'm like, I'm not giving you that information. Lose me
No.
to
Do your
job.
best. Yeah.
Yep.
So
No.
you can just work harder, I guess.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how competitive this group is. Not a bad thing, but it's funny.
Yeah. It's funny the different personalities.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for helping
Such
with
a
that
variety of schools
explanation.
too. So interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not like one, well, besides Southern New Hampshire University, but there's not one big group of these selective schools that are, you know, taking a chunk of kids.
I like to see
Interesting.
too the colleges that they're accepted to, not
Mm.
necessarily the ones
Yeah.
they attend. I
Right.
think that is more telling of their potential.
Well, you can go to the high school and look at the teleprompter for 8 hours and you'll get them all.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
If you don't know where somebody's
like
going
that.
by then.
Yeah.
Did I send you guys that information?
You sent me the report of from 2009 to 2019.
Oh,
I did
yeah.
1 year only. I still have to go through the other years. It's a lot of work.
But it is helpful to see what colleges they were accepted to, because there are some pretty big hitters.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't know. That's
Yeah.
the other
Well,
thing.
right,
We
true.
beg them
Yeah.
to bring us your acceptance letters. And
Yeah.
there's been reasons why students have avoided sometimes, which I think we've figured a way around that. Not every kid wants to hear their name over the announcements.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and that just brings up
Well,
different stress in their world.
yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
it
does.
also comes to that selective college versus the community technical
Right.
college and
Right.
how great that is for some kids because they're going to use 2 years much cheaper than going to UNH
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
going to St. A's or going to those other places. And
But there's still a stigma.
Right, there's that
Oh, there is.
perception.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're
Yeah.
going to continue to do the pause, whether it's military. I already have second day of school in. I already know 3 seniors that are going in the military. Second day of school in.
Right.
Kids I wouldn't have expected
Mhm.
to. So it's kind
Wow.
of neat. So we'll do pause for military. I'll do pause for if someone goes for cosmetology school.
trade schools. Yep.
Yeah, and our windows,
Yep.
trade schools, work, they know where they're going. Those will all be in the guidance window where everybody walks by a million times. And then
Mhm.
on the TV in the main office, if Sean McDonough has
If we have
somebody,
a student who's going to do that.
we'll
correct.
continue to promote all those types of things, but it's not going to be over.
The announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
seems to be the intimidating
Mhm.
piece for a lot of kids.
Yep.
So I'm hoping this year we
Oh, you used to
actually-
announce them over the announcements?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
a
just-
long morning announcement.
And it was overkill, I felt.
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Well, we changed announcements to during advisory too, so
Oh,
it
okay.
didn't cut into class time as well.
Yeah, we did that, April?
yeah.
Maybe, something like that. So it's a more appropriate time, but,
Yeah.
so hopefully I'll get more accurate information
Mm.
too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
knowing that they're not gonna be blasted out over the speakers, so.
Good.
Yeah.
So while I have you and we're talking about colleges, have you given any consideration to at graduation going back to announcing what school they're going to?
I haven't even thought about that. I didn't get any kickback to speak of, other than when we initially made the decision and the students. Since graduation, I haven't heard boo.
No, they're all graduated and
Nothing.
gone on. So I just,
Correct. I haven't thought about it, but
If I remember, the kickback was pretty evenly divided, wasn't it?
Yeah.
yes,
It wasn't like one side came down.
no. I mean, the kids were all in favor of it, okay? The kids were strongly in favor of it. But I didn't face any personal challenges.
It was all online.
I know. Well,
it's everywhere.
I'm not on Facebook too.
Yeah,
there's
the reason I'm not on that
site.
There's a couple sites I don't go on to.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
Well, and a reminder, that really was an initiative from the community. There were family members who, again, it's back to stigma, right? So there was a sense that there were kids who were providing misinformation, even just have something said.
yeah,
So, they said, what's, so great, a kid walks across the stage and some college gets announced, but that's just in order to not stand out. And so their point was, why are we forcing that to occur? So it's worth keep having the dialogue about,
Absolutely, yeah.
but it definitely originated with the community.
And we had it in the program of studies as well, which was the
The
other piece
graduation
of that. I mean, the
program.
Yeah,
graduation.
yeah.
We listed it in
It was-
writing.
yeah,
It was,
it was
yeah,
just-
but we didn't announce, we didn't
We
verbalize
did not
it.
announce it. It also shortened the ceremony,
Well, not really.
which when you have a captive audience sometimes, well, okay, right.
Not really. We need to help with that
True,
too. I
yes.
keep picking on him. I'm like, Bill, I had to attend Nashville High South, and
I know.
theirs was done in an hour and 20,
Mhm.
and they had graduated 472 kids.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
that beautiful ceremony out on that lawn with
Do they only have
with
one
the cold
speaker?
wind that day.
They had a guest speaker. He
It was
spoke
a
for less than 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Kept it short and sweet.
I will say though, I really do like our graduation ceremony.
Oh, I do
I
too.
do. So we have
Two
to
shorter speeches.
brought a few people, yes.
Sometimes less is better, though.
Right. Shorter. Yeah, would be good.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for
Yes.
helping me explain that. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming out
Thank
tonight. Just a couple of other quick comments, if I may. Oh, did you have something?
Well, if he's leaving, I had a couple of questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, before I,
I figure while I have you here,
Yeah.
because I know it's going to come up, and every year it does, but here we are, day 2. How are we going to fix Infinite Campus this year to make certain that grades are inputted on a timely basis?
Great question. I had,
I figured I'd hit it now on
We
day
have-
2 rather than waiting.
We have a faculty
Right out
meeting Monday.
the gate.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things I have on my agenda. Now, my plan is for them every 2 weeks to have input grades. However, the challenge for some people who are in project-based classes is it won't necessarily line up that well. But at least every 2 weeks, you should have either formative or some sort of summative assessments in there for the kids.
I think the board agrees with you on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
note. Can the teachers just input a note instead of like a number thing?
Well, they
just
can
say-
put assignments in with
Mhm.
notes that don't reflect a grade,
Correct.
right?
Or you can say it's an in progress.
In
Right, in
progress, yeah, I'm
progress,
fine with
right,
that.
absolutely.
Just something to keep
Yeah.
us.
I think there are a lot of parents who are shocked the last 2 weeks when all the grades get put in
And
all
all
at
of a sudden,
once.
Right.
you're either
Yeah.
going sky high or you're all of a sudden drop down to a B minus instead of a B plus.
B minus, you're funny.
Oh, was it A minus? Okay, A minus.
Yep.
All right. We can admin team meeting too. Like every
Tomorrow.
2 weeks, we can run a
And,
grade
and,
report,
and
grade book report.
I actually had Andrea Stern do that a couple of years ago. Just to tap people on the shoulder and say, what's going on?
I mean, you have some teachers that do a very good job.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you
Oh,
have
yeah.
others that do a mediocre
Yep.
job, and you have some that just don't do a good job at all.
So
That'll be,
I can run that.
we can
report.
talk tomorrow. and-
Okay.
And
I think just emphasizing in this day and age, people are so quick to have instant
That's-
results
Right.
that it's really driving the teacher need to stay on top of it. I mean,
Absolutely.
I can decide when I get home what TV show I want to watch. I don't have to do what the network gives me. I
Right,
can
right.
pick and choose, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the same thing.
Yep.
I think it's just incumbent on the teachers to stay on top of it.
I do
because
too.
people need that.
And this came up, I'm teaching in another district this year, but it's came up during our district kickoff. The superintendent said it's good for teachers to communicate to parents how often is normal to check your Infinite Campus. If you're checking it, if you get a text every time a grade is inputted, it's overkill. You're you're not looking at the forest for the trees,
Yeah.
right?
and for teachers, that's a challenge sometimes.
Right. So if some kids you're only going to need to check it maybe once a week.
Right.
Check in, see how they're doing. Send an email if you have any questions, and then some kids need a little more guidance and a little more parents being on top of things, and some kids you can let it go and they'll be fine without you checking in every week. So I think if teachers can help communicate that to parents too,
Mhm.
when they're, during open house or sending out a welcome letter or something like that, that might
Yep.
help parents kind of take all of the ups and downs with a grain of salt and just kind of see long-term over the course of the term, it's going to be okay.
But sometimes you're like, did you do this assignment? I did the assignment, and a
Yes.
week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, 3
Right.
weeks go by. You're lying to me. You didn't do this.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And also it
Yeah.
pops up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
And
do,
that
I do
time
agree
is-
that it needs to be prompt, but I used to get the alerts every time a grade was inputted, and that's all I ever did was just stare at my phone.
Anxiety
And at some
Yeah,
point, right,
yeah.
right, I know. Yeah.
And it worked
Not-
out fine
not
in the end.
And I hope it's, I
I
hope as
like
we
your
get,
surprise.
I know.
I'm also hoping as we get closer to the end of the semester that we're not closing the portal for as long as we have. We shorten that window
Yeah.
by a lot.
To zero. There shouldn't be any
It-
need to close the portal,
There should be
right?
no reason.
No,
No, hold on.
No, I
this is what happens when it's
I-
one-on-one.
yeah. I agree. I agree with that because if as long as it's made clear that okay, so November 5th, I think is a
Is the
Tuesday
end
or
of the-
Wednesday.
end of
It's the
the-
end of quarter one.
Quarter one.
So the problem is any grade or assignment after November 1st might not be part of that first
Right.
quarter grade.
Right.
But as long as it's made clear, I'm giving you an assignment that's going to go into second quarter.
Right.
But I think it would show up anyways. I think it shows up in
You
the
can just
parent.
put the due date
Yeah, you
November
put the
5th.
due date.
Yeah.
and it
Our
shows up
power
as
school's
second.
live in Hudson. We never shut down.
I think my concern with it is, I had two kids and they're completely different kids. One kid I could have just never looked, and the other kid I had to like,
Mhm.
you need to stay on this. And just,
Preach into the choir.
oh, I know everybody here has heard the story of,
Yeah.
the quiz that was the one grade for a competency that was taken, I think it was the first day of school his senior year, and he was flunking the class till
Yeah.
January, whatever, even though he took it the day he got back from an excused trip with his employer. And so he's flunking the class with an 89, and the only grade in the competency ended up being 10 points on this quiz he took the first day of school that he took the Monday when he got back and got 100 on.
And it
And he
wasn't
had it.
answered.
But it was
Wasn't
not
graded.
entered until late January, early February. You and I had talked about
Right.
that. And it's an outlier maybe, but those are the things that I worry about when they close it is, it closes and all of a sudden it shows back up with whatever the grade is. And there's that gap in possible communication, possible,
Yeah, yeah.
hey, because I'm a teacher, Liz is a teacher, Tina, I make mistakes.
Yeah.
And if a parent calls me and says, and I look at it, I say, no, and hopefully the parent doesn't call me without me contacting them first saying,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Bill's
right,
not doing
right.
well.
Right, right,
But
right.
if I
Here we
make a
are.
mistake, which I have,
Sure.
if it's closed, I can't see it, and then you have that whole problem, the stress for the kid, the parent, everything. I'd like to see it open. I mean, it's live. I talked to a number of teachers when we got it, and one of the things they told me about, it's live. You can see it. So why are we closing it? And educating the parents is important,
Mhm.
but having it there just so you have that communication, I think, is important.
We, last year, we closed the window down, right? So it was
Yeah.
not closed as long, so it was
Yeah,
a
we
shorter
narrowed
period.
it. Yeah.
Short.
But we also talked about the fact that it's really communicating to families that, if we keep it live, then you're seeing the sausage being made, right?
Yeah.
So the grades are kind of being inputted and the grade is fluctuating in there. But I think your point, Robin, I've heard the story before. I would hope that doesn't happen. If a parent out there is aware of something that's holding up, that needs to go right to the principal, and the principal needs to have a conversation with the teacher to say, put the grade in. It's really, it's not a game. These are grades, and we ought to be transparent and open about that. So I'd like to think that would not occur, but we need to know of it so that we can get on top of it. But we'll look at trying to keep that open live with the expectation. Don't call the teachers this week. Don't email them, because
Right.
all that
Yeah.
energy responding to something that isn't done yet is, I think, the fear factor that has people saying, just shut it down so we don't get the emails.
But if
And
teachers,
part-
if parents know at 4:00 on that Friday, that's it. If you don't, I stay after school and clean things up on that Friday. I'm plugging away all week.
But part of me wonders if you did it, if the volume of emails that probably occur the day it shuts down wouldn't be the same volume over the.
Over a course
Yeah.
of
I
time.
mean,
Correct.
it just
Right.
seems.
Maybe we could talk to Andrea Stern too about
That's what
how
I was
I
gonna
could
say.
pull an F report while the grades are live. Because that's what
'Cause
has to
that's
happen.
that's the one challenge is the eligibility piece.
Yeah.
So in November, we have to determine what's the point. We have to shut it for a moment to get these student eligibility for co-curriculars and athletic. You have to do the same thing. And the challenge has always been, midterms. We have 4 days of grading and then big exams to plug in. But even at that, I'm just concerned about the parent calls, you know, the midterms are graded, they're not graded, you know.
They don't have school that week, right?
Yes.
It's just,
It's
They're half
correct.
days.
I guess the other
Okay.
thing we could is maybe reach out to districts that have a similar program.
Right.
And, you know, just say, what do
City
you do?
managers.
Yeah.
Take your time to grade.
Yeah, Salem has it.
I don't-
That's
I
why.
forget what it is.
So we can
Jody,
try to
what is
figure
it?
that out. Yeah, because of course you guys
I don't
know
know.
November,
Open campus, right?
November and April are just checks for extracurricular
Right.
eligibility.
Yeah.
So
I know that.
Um, it's not really, it doesn't hit the transcripts in any means.
Yeah.
So.
Do you go over the report cards before they get sent out? No, I'm just curious.
Yes,
Yes,
unfortunately
yes,
I do in my
yeah.
office.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the teachers, and then Andrea Stern is awesome. She's super helpful with my assistant. And my assistant looks at every teacher's gradebook grades and tries to make sure things have been overridden if it's a
If it's
end
a
of semester
competency
grade.
challenge. or-
So she goes pie-eyed looking that, and then I have to look at the final report and have chase teachers and have them fix things before they get released.
Push through.
I guess,
right?
yeah.
I just put on our next admin meeting, just the concept of the IC gradebook. So we'll just discuss it one more
Yeah.
time. Now's the time to do it. I think last year we shortened after we had started a practice, but what did we learn from that and how do we go forward? So we'll keep at it.
Have we talked about finals and competency recovery week yet, or are we gonna?
Tonight?
No. Is that in
Next
discussion?
time.
No, it's kind of getting late.
Yeah, that's January.
Is that January?
They did,
Right, we
yeah.
did change that on the
So
reporting
reporting
transcript
out.
over this summer. It was a little challenging. So students who did grade recovery or in summer school, it shows like GR, CR for credit recovery. So on the Campbell High School profile that I have to edit every summer, it lists out every class that we offer, and then it also has almost like a code directory of what CR means. So now any college that looks at our transcript will understand that a student, yes, they got a B+ in world studies, English, with grade recovery and competency recovery. So they didn't pass the class the first time, but they did recover the credit. And the kid now receives whatever grade that average.
Oh,
they
that's such a
earned.
soft, that's such a, that kills me.
parents are going to rejoice with
Okay,
that.
sorry. That doesn't.
No,
Okay, we
No.
didn't do that. So they had a 78 average, but they failed the competencies. So now that
Kinda like my
C+
son.
is
So they
now-
get
Who's
back
still
to
an
the
F,
earned
yeah.
grade, and, but the child who failed with the 60, but could have recovered through summer school, they recovered to a 65, to a passing grade.
Right.
Not to a B or an A or
Right.
those other
Talk
things.
about
Right.
but are we still gonna have finals this year? That was,
That's part of our CF.
That's
meeting.
part of, our- right.
okay, just
Yes.
asking.
Yeah, we're
Well, you know, some people like cumulative end of the term. Some
Oh, I
don't.
have I think I
But-
think high stakes
But I think
testing's
there's,
okay.
I think there's opportunities for competency recovery and to do some other things as well with students.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not sure.
Can I live with them? I'm tired now.
But just have one other thing. I'm actually curious of all three schools, but since you're here, what we're doing as far as Alice for the students right now. I don't know where you're at with right now with that, and
More of
Have we not done it with the kids yet?
Well,
No.
so again, we have an emergency planning meeting on Friday. So we've done the parent rollout with Alice and we have made it kind of grade level specific. So we have to talk about exactly what the high school is proposing to do with student involvement, which is going to be different than Griffin, obviously. So,
that's why I was just curious, all of them.
so what we're going to do
Hudson
that.
and
Teachers-
stuff.
We have teachers already, however, who are talking with their students
Okay.
in their classrooms and saying, you know, if we have a really emergency situation, I'm gonna give you some instructions that may sound not okay,
Yeah.
but we're gonna follow them carefully,
Okay.
you know? And so they're starting that conversation. In fact, Denise came to me wondering, Lynn came to me wondering, what are we doing with this? Blah, 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 blah. And it's really building specific.
Yeah, so we will, by the end of September, we will have that up and going, fully implemented. And we'll communicate with families exactly what that looks like. I mean, we did it with the parent night, but we had 20 people there, so we need to get it out to all families.
And who's recertified? I saw an email about recertification.
So let me talk about that. So actually on our district opening day, which is my next topic. If we can
Come on.
plug ahead, yeah.
Yep.
So basically, we designated this year that we had a district day on
Yeah.
the first day of school. So I have linked the PowerPoint presentation that I did, and just want to thank Tara for being with us that day. So she helped with the recognition and getting awards handed out and so forth. And then we had Justice Broderick, who came in and did just an incredibly powerful overview of his personal story and the struggles that he had with his son with mental illness. Followed that by our school psychologists, who provided resources and training specific to our school. So one of the things the state had passed was that there's an expectation of 2 hours of suicide prevention training that we do with all staff. And so we did that on opening day between Justice Broderick and the school psychs, personalizing it for our schools. And that was for all staff. I will tell you that the food service director said to me, can I pull my staff from that? Because there are things I'd like to do with them. And I said, this is all staff. It's all hands on deck. I mean, it could be the custodian who recognizes something different with a kiddo, or the food service worker. So sorry, we're all going through the same training. So we did.
Yeah.
That afternoon, we did training on tech. So it was sort of the update to the data governance and student privacy, and how to all play our part in making sure that we protect that. And again, that was all hands on deck. And then we ended with the Alice recertification.
I haven't been recertified. I thought it was 2 to 3 years you would need to be recertified.
You have to be recertified every year, is
Yeah.
my understanding.
Yeah.
And so, so when you say you haven't, do you mean as a board member, or are you saying as a teacher in another?
I'm not saying anything now.
Okay.
I'm not
I
saying.
think it might be different if you pay for the training or don't pay, I think. 'Cause I know if other districts didn't pay for the training, the police department did it.
It could vary by
Police
the way the
department did
district
ours,
is
yeah.
I
done,
think
but
that's the difference.
But we have, as a district, we have engaged with Alice. And so all the board members should have received an invite from, did it come from Corey, or how?
No, it comes from Alice Training Institute.
Yeah,
It comes from Alice. So if you did the initial cert last year, which I think all 5 of you had done, right?
No, I did it
No?
in Hudson.
Um,
With real pellets,
I was-
sissies.
So if you want to recertify, you have that. I will tell you that we sort of said to the staff, by 4:00 today, everybody needs to be recertified. And I think by 4:00, we had like 97%.
We
of
had
people done.
95.
Oh, good.
We're at 97 right now. And the ones that have not completed are people that are out on leave or for whatever reason didn't have access that day.
Great.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah, so
close.
we had a few new staff members who were still, their accounts weren't set up because they were hired like the day before. So, so all of those little things. But honestly, we did a really great job of getting everybody recertified. And so board members who got that invite, feel free to take it. I mean,
We can
you're
still do
actually
that.
in
Okay, that's
the
good
2
to
to 3% that aren't counted yet. So,
If you need-
but
Okay.
we've satisfied our requirement with Alice. So we are good to go for another year. So you don't have to do it, but you're welcome to do it. And so feel free to click that link and take that quiz if you wish.
I will.
Okay.
Was it work, the district day well received?
So I think it was overall well received. I heard a little bit of feedback that it was heavy. So in the past we've never done a full district day, and we've never done all these mandatory pieces. And so the heavy piece was that we start off with the rah-rah, like welcome back, trying to get everybody geared up for a great year kind of thing. But then we talked about mental illness, and then we talked about suicide, and then we talked about school shooters.
Oh,
And people were
jeez.
just like,
Yeah, right.
oh my gosh, it's so heavy. Couldn't we pace that out over the course of September? And I replied to one staff member who wrote to me, and I said, what keeps superintendents awake at night is what if something happened on the first day and we have put the training off because it was
Yeah.
too heavy. So I'm like, unfortunately, the realities of schools today those are the kinds of things that we have to prepare and discuss. So I don't know how you make it less heavy, but it's, we'll discuss that in the future and try to figure that out. Day 2 this year was then the building-based day. So each school had a PD day that was scheduled just around their need. And then day 3 was the day for teachers in their classroom to get done what they needed to. So I think overall, it really got everybody ready so that when we hit the ground running on Tuesday, I emailed the principals today So when I was dealing with all the phone calls to the town and the attorneys and so forth on Tuesday, the good news is I didn't have one parent complaint that came in. I didn't get a single email about buses. I mean, it was like everything just sort of happened yesterday very smoothly. And so that was nice that I could spend time. No, it's not nice. Spend time talking to attorneys. Sorry. It was like, you know, not the way I wanted to spend my day.
She's a very nice attorney.
Or turn off the AC.
Yeah, it's cold.
So, but the bottom line is I think we had good openings and then really a very smooth opening on the first day for students. So, let me talk about enrollment on first day. So if you click the link, oh,
Tell them,
am I what?
we're done.
Yeah, Bill, you're welcome to say.
I'm gonna go eat dinner.
And if you want to vote, you're welcome to do that too.
If you
Thank
do
you.
stay, we might peg you with more questions.
That's why he's like, it's time to get up.
So if you,
You can handle them.
click the link to the opening day enrollment, just to orient you to it, you're looking at the box that's on the left-hand column of the first page. You'll notice it says September 3rd, of 2019 at the top. And there are two basic columns as you work your way down. The registration. What did we have in the computer system for students who were enrolled on opening day versus the actual head count? How many noses were sitting in front of the teachers on that day? And it's always lower. It's always lower if you look at the two columns, because we haven't cleaned up the roster yet and families have relocated and so forth. So, so really, if you look at GMS, there were 472 students in the computer system, but only 426 were in school yesterday.
Oh, that's because preschool didn't meet yet.
And part of it is preschool, so you could add 43 to that, but you're still going to be under that enrollment number.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Of course.
Is this differentiating between homesick and not in the district, or could this be?
Just
There
not
could be
fresh.
some homesick. I mean, experience shows that there are a few homesick on the first day. They're kind of excited to come back to school, but
So that's not a hard number. We know you're homesick to County.
right. And remember that we're going to give to you the first day enrollment head count. Then we do the second Friday. So that's our next trigger point, the second Friday, and then we do October 1st. The October 1st enrollment is the one that we then use for all our projections going forward. But if you look at this from yesterday, Griffin was at 426, LMS was at 391, and the high school was at 426. And then you can compare those over to first day enrollments last year, and you can see that they're basically the same. So it's a total of 1243 that we had in-house yesterday, and we had 1238 last year, so we're up 5 students. And if you compare the registrations in the system, we were at 1308 in both cases, so pretty similar between the 2 years. And I want to highlight for the board the kindergarten number. So 73 are the actual students who were there. Remember, we have a student moving from out of state
And there was a new one today.
on October 1st. So we're definitely at 74. And then I think there was
There
a
was a new one
walk-in
today.
today. So we're at 75 on October 1st. So, and remember, our trigger number was 76. So we had our eye on that. 76 would put 19 students in every classroom.
How many kindergartners choose to go part-time? That was a question I had.
4.
There's just 4.
And one of them's already talking about going full-time, the
Going
part-time.
Yeah, so there were 4 who requested it this year. I believe they were each placed into a different classroom, so that each.
No.
So
No.
not true.
Not true.
Liz knows everything. I don't know.
Liz, tell us, where are they?
There are 2 in Adamakis' room, 1 in Elliot's room, and I think it was a mistake. They both weren't supposed to be in Adamakis' room, and I don't know where the other one was. But they're happy. Yeah.
I know what they were trying to do was to make sure that when those students left for
Yeah,
the day,
I-
that
that's
each
what I
class
would
went
think.
down by
Right,
Right.
that's right.
So
I
I'm
think it was a
surprised to hear
mistake,
that,
yeah.
but.
But one of them might go full-time.
And the other experience is that all of the half-timers last year, everybody who started with an intent to stay half-time ended up enrolling full-time.
Full-time, yeah.
And part of it is that once the students make friends in the classroom and they get to know the teacher and they understand the rhythm of it, they just want to stay. They don't want to leave midday. So
And once
that
the
could
mother
happen
gets the
again.
kid out of the house and says, ooh, More hours.
or father.
Right?
True.
Yep.
That's why
So-
I sent Zoe twice. Morning and afternoon.
Anything on the first day enrollment numbers? All right, so let me close that. And take a look at,
So our decreasing numbers remain the same.
they do.
Interesting.
And it's interesting. I've got to talk to Tom because Tom keeps saying he's up a certain number, and I'm
Right.
looking at the numbers and I'm not seeing them. So I'm not sure what we've got to really flush out exactly what that means at.
Can I ask how many fourth grade teachers there are? Are there 4 or 5? 4? So those are big classes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they were when my kids were there, 23 each.
Yeah,
But that's also
Yes.
where the
25 is our guide.
the
Yeah.
number
Three is
changes
very
up to
small.
25.
Grade 3 is very small this year.
All right, so next is the special meeting and revised warrant. So I've given to the board, if you have not read the judge's decision, I
Yeah.
encourage you to do it. First of all, I think,
Sign each one.
Yeah, blue.
Yes, blue. Do you want a blue pen?
She got one.
first of all, I think the judge, those of us who were in court that day, recognized that he was taking great interest in the case. He was very compassionate. He was very understanding. He heard all parties in the court equally. So even the intervener who was opposed to the action, the judge gave the intervener plenty of opportunity to explain the position and so forth. So, here's a very well thought out judgment on the question. And, again, the school board has followed all the proper legal requirements by following the remedy that's allowed by law to request this. And the judge issued a 10-page ruling. So, I went into this thinking that he was going to bang a gavel at the end and say, so granted.
I know, right?
So granted, right? And instead, we waited many days, but then we got a very thoughtful opinion. So I feel good about where it all landed. So I believe, is that on social media?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. So anybody in the community can access that on our Facebook page, the school
The
board
Litchfield
page.
Litchfield School Board Facebook page, but I also posted it on the WhatsApp page. And I could put a link on Twitter too.
So please feel free to read that. So what's coming around now is the revised warrant. And so basically, let me talk a little bit about yesterday, because we were set with the ruling to have our deliberative session last night and then to have the actual vote on October 1st. And we learned yesterday morning in going through everything with the attorney, when the judge set the ruling out on Friday, he said in there, if you have to change the timeline, I'm recognizing that I've taken my time to get this ruling done. So if you have to adjust your timeline, now's your chance. You have 2 days to file with the court an amended timeline. So I talked to the attorney yesterday morning and I said, we're good to go on the timeline. We feel good about it. It's already been communicated and we can make this happen. And he then asked me a couple of questions. And one of the questions was about the checklist and the supervisors of the checklist having held a correction session. And if you look in the statute, it says 4 weeks prior to deliberative, 4 Tuesdays prior to deliberative, you have to post the checklist. You have to announce when any member of the public can have that checklist corrected. And that correction session has to take place on a Saturday between 6 and 13 days prior to deliberative for at least 30 minutes time in a public location. And basically, that had not occurred. So the supervisors had not held those sessions and had a corrected checklist. What I was fearful of is the amount of energy and time that this board has put into this process, that our teachers have put into this process, that we've all put into this process, and that we would then go through, have a vote that could later be challenged in court on a technicality for not having had the proper steps done. And so after consulting with Mike Elwell, the sense was that we would be better delaying this to make sure that there was no opportunity for somebody who was opposed to the granting of this or opposed to the concept of this to come back and say, the results of that are invalid because you didn't have this checklist done. So we are following to the letter of the law every single step that we have to do. And what's different for us is that really the school board has asked for this election. In the past, we're sort of on the coattails of the town election. So some of the steps that may or may not have occurred, we might not even be aware of because we're on the coattails of the town. This time, we're responsible for doing the checklist to make sure that we've done everything. And that's how we picked up this glitch that had occurred. So I hope the public understands that this is not any kind of game. It is, I would have rather have had deliberative last night and the vote as we originally scheduled, but there's no way that we could have the will of the voters undermined later by a legal challenge because of a step that wasn't followed. So
It's disappointing. But I think we're doing the right thing and checking all our boxes and checking all our checklists.
And so what's coming around for the board to sign is the amended warrant. And this has the new dates, which are the deliberative will actually be on. So basically yesterday, the voting checklist was posted with an opportunity for people to amend it on Saturday, September 21st. That'll be published in the newspaper on the 14th. So all the proper notices will go out about it. And then we'll have the deliberative on the 1st of October. And then you have to provide an opportunity to amend the checklist again prior to the actual voting day. So you have to do it twice. And we will make sure that we do it twice. And the point is that you don't want somebody coming to deliberative who's not a legal voter, right? So you have to make sure you have a proper checklist in order to ensure that that doesn't happen.
So Mike, this is like for is this an opportunity for voters to register if they are not already registered?
Correct.
Okay. Or like change their address or
Correct.
that kind of
Wasn't
thing.
it also purging people that moved out of town?
Correct.
Okay.
We're supposed to do it after every election.
So basically, if you know there's somebody so it's a public document. If you know there's somebody who's moved out of town on there, you can raise that point with the supervisors. If somebody's passed away, you could raise that point if they aren't aware. So all of that should be taking place with that checklist now.
And that's on the 21st?
On the 21st, Saturday the 21st. I don't know the hours. It's posted somewhere, but I don't actually know the hours of it.
Okay.
And then, yeah,
It's done
so
twice, right?
done twice,
So not just 21st.
So a Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. I'm assuming morning, but it could be afternoon.
They have them do it at the library. It's at Aaron Cutler Library, and they have
The
a sign
list?
posted on their door announcing it. for
Oh,
Should
Saturday,
be one here
21st.
too, right?
So that's where the
So it's gonna be
checklist
held
is.
there.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's okay.
Um,
you.
and the other piece is that, just so the public's aware, this is a regular election. This is not anything but a regular election that's run just like the elections that take place in March. So
people can register to
you
vote
can,
there too.
and if you
don't have to.
if you're unable to be in
too.
town on that day, you can request an absentee ballot and follow all the same requirements. I mean, everything is exactly the same as what you would normally have. So
Except there's only one question.
there's only one question. Yep. And the other piece is because there's only one question and to save expense, we're not going to do a machine fed ballot. It'll be a paper ballot where you check a box, yes or no. And they'll be hand counted, but it's literally making two piles because, well, maybe three. Yes, no, and blank,
Unknown.
I guess,
Yeah.
or unreadable or hanging chat or whatever it is. So we'll figure that
Well,
out.
it's still going through the machine.
No,
No.
they will go into a ballot box and then the
Echo
ballot
box.
box will be
All right.
open and they'll sort them.
Ooh, that's old school.
It's old, but it's cheap because we can
Yeah.
make those ballots as opposed to the others are machine read,
Right.
and optics, and
Yeah.
they're pretty expensive. So
Do we need to vote again on the warrant? If we're changing the date, it's still the same warrant.
Nope. Mike said that the budget hearing that we had met all the legal requirements, so we don't have to have another budget hearing.
Okay.
And you don't have to re-vote on it because it's the same. All you're changing are the dates, and that has to be posted. By posting it tomorrow, you're way exceeding the requirements, so you're in great shape.
Posted here tonight.
Yeah. All right, anything else on the special election? So next up, Alice Research, we covered that, so we'll keep moving. Historic registration of town buildings. So if you watched the last selectmen's meeting, the group from the Heritage Commission was present, and they were asking about designating buildings in town as historic buildings. And if you click that link, one of the buildings that they have referenced is GMS. One second. Yes. And so then you can see the application itself that has been filed. So the committee has already applied for designation for Griffin Memorial. They were under the impression that the town owned the school. We pulled out the deeds and did some research, so we have the deeds in our office. And in fact, it's very clear that the Griffin property is owned by the Litchfield School District, which is a municipal corporation formed under the laws of New Hampshire, distinct and separate from the town. So, in fact, the school board, as the governing body, are the ones who would have to sign off on the petition relative to Griffin Memorial. So it's not under the select board. So I guess the town owns the town hall, the church, the fire station, and the library, but the Griffin Memorial is ours. And so.
The other
So-
schools.
What are the benefits? No,
We-
it's
we own the other
the
schools,
old,
too.
it's
What do
the
they
old
give us for it?
section.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they want it?
Do they want it?
What's the benefit to registering it? Will they take care of it? Will they paint it? No.
So
Oh,
here's
I'm
what.
just curious.
Here's the way it's being framed. They would like somebody to go to the select board meeting next time. So I asked to have somebody come to our meeting, but nobody was available for tonight. They want a school board rep to go next Monday to speak to, questions, have questions raised there, et cetera.
To the
So that-
selectmen?
To the selectmen's meeting. Yeah,
But isn't it our building?
it is. But they're presenting there, so they've asked for a board member to attend
Oh,
that
I see.
to speak to it.
The committee's
Ultimately,
presenting
it's,
to the.
Oh.
it's going to have, we have to sign off on it because we're the owners of the building. So here's what I understand. Basically, they've documented the building. So if you look at the application, they've measured it, they've taken photographs of it, they've talked about when it was built, what was significant about it, what alterations have been made, et cetera. So you can see the application for yourself that's in there, and all the photos and so forth, including one historical picture of the building too. The reason they've done that is that they said that when you're on this roster, you really retain your right to do whatever you want with it. So if you want to replace the windows, you can replace the windows. You can decide to tear it down. It's no longer of use to us and we want to tear it down. But at least there is a record that there is this building in Litchfield in the state archives. And so that if something were to happen to it, if it burned down and it was gone, it was lost to fire, there would now be a record of the 1930 section of the building on file with the state. So what they're saying is that we own it. We can still do as we decide to do with it, but at least now it's captured and recorded. And then if we were to apply for grant money and so forth later on, because it's on the roster or the list, it can help us to apply for grant money to help with LTIP money, whatever they have.
But who knows what could happen in 5 years, 10 years from now, now that it's on there and you want to do something.
So that's a question is, could it change, like protecting anything on that registry? Could
I
there
would
be?
imagine under the current rules, if a change is coming, you could opt out of it at any time, right? Up to the point they change the rules.
Except maybe if we get grant money because of that, maybe you might be required
That's-
to
and that's
then
one of the-
preserve.
Out in that
I'm almost
application.
positive that, I believe the selectmen asked that question, if they did apply for grant money for something. I think they were checking into it, but I thought the answer was, as far as they knew, if you applied for grant money for upkeep, that didn't impact the future of the building. But I
Right.
think they're double checking. that
Yeah.
question.
I just read a paragraph about it. I mean, it basically says we can do anything we want
Yeah.
with
And-
the property.
To be fair, I don't think, Mike, unless you heard more, it doesn't sound like the grant money was like millions of dollars to do a major rent. It was like.
The
small
grant money to
percentage.
fix the place up?
Like, from what I-
Accessibility,
Yeah.
maintenance,
It sounded
yeah.
like ramps
Right,
and
but it's to a building we can't even use.
Maybe a grant would fix
Is this, would the
It'd have to be
rest
a
of
big grant.
GMS, it would just be the 1930s building, which is condemned,
Well,
right?
it's interesting, if you look at the application, they've taken pictures all the way
Oh,
around.
GMS.
So
Right.
they've included beyond just the 1930s building in the application, so they've documented everything there.
Yeah, I
but-
guess that'd be my only question for him, because I didn't see this application, I didn't have my computer with me. Is the way it was presented, it's just the old cute little building in the front.
But then
Right,
they have
that's
an
what I-
aerial view.
This has 68, 74, 88, 68 additions with numbers all around the aerial view. I guess that'd be the
Right,
only question.
is that all included in?
I would just, again,
And with the
I'm
application-
concerned when they start the process as far as
That's
making
what I think it is.
historical building.
Observatory, yeah.
Next thing you know, you're stuck like with the fire department, that they don't want to tear it down, they don't want to do anything with it. You know, and then if you want to down the road, do something with GMS, are you possibly going to have your hands tied?
That's my concern as well.
I just also, it says you get special consideration or relief in the application of access, building, and safety codes. So that enters a very tricky area because maybe it's historic and they would they would relax some rules, but I would imagine we don't want to
Doesn't it
relax.
have
I mean,
asbestos in it?
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. I
Stuff.
mean, it would.
Well-
I guess the question is, does that apply to all of GMS or just Litchfield Grammar School? Because we don't use that's all closed off anyway. We don't use that part of the building for anything, right?
That's a cute picture.
So I guess it does,
Question.
because it says
I
current,
do,
current use. It does say current use storage.
when I was in Goffstown, we did a replacement of the cupola on the old school building that was the SAU office. We went for one of these type of grants, and when you replace it, it has to be period-like materials.
Mhm.
So we didn't go for the grant. We ended up doing it through budget funds because you're not
Then you
going
can do
to
it any
replace
way-
it to
then
be
you can do it any way
exactly
you
what
want.
it is. You want something that's improved. So,
Vinyl's cheaper.
huh?
Vinyl is cheaper.
Yes, exactly.
Final.
So,
So I would just be concerned we could put on this list that, like I said, down the road, where our hands might get tied.
But this building is up to us, not the selectmen.
that's correct.
Oh, okay.
And I have an email from Troy today. So after we had done the research, I wanted to bring it to the board to say, no, we have the deed. It's the school district that owns it.
Yeah.
Troy sent me an email today saying that they had clarified that in fact the school district owns the building. It's not the town. And therefore the school board will have to be the ones to sign off on the application, not the selectmen. So how do you want to proceed? I mean, they're meeting next Monday. I believe the folks from the Heritage Commission are going back.
It's too bad they're not here tonight, so we can have a discussion about it.
right.
So if somebody could attend that meeting and take questions and concerns and bring it back, or tell them that,
I can attend.
I'm gonna go too.
Rob, you up for that again? Or-
You gonna go Monday?
I have something next
Yeah, I'll be here on, you can come Liz too if you want.
so I'll let Troy know that we've got a couple of board members who will be there, and then
They meet at 7, right?
Yes.
Well, are we all kind of in consensus as to, what we would agree to and what we
I
don't
just think
agree
there's a
to?
lot of questions.
I think they should come
Yeah.
here.
I mean, I do have concerns about the special exemptions for those, for
Can we
electric
invite them to our
and
next,
fire.
I mean, we noticed Selectmen's meeting, but I mean, we just said it, Tara just said it, that it'd be nice if they came here.
so I've invited them.
Yeah.
But nobody's here. So I think to reiterate that if they want that now it's clear, because if you look at last Monday's selectmen's meeting, they clearly were saying you own the building. And
Well, they were told, I
Town.
believe that the people who put the application forward were told that the town's own school buildings. I think they said that, didn't they?
yeah.
So,
And so now that that's been clarified for them, I think to just reiterate that, hey, we do have questions. Can you come and present to
And this
us? We
is-
want to better understand it. So if you want our signature, we have to take a vote. So a presentation with the board would make sense.
So we'll go to the Selectmen's meeting and tell them that.
would the application process have to start over because of the ownership?
I don't think so. They've already put the application in. my understanding is they filed it up in Concord, but
How can they if they're not the owner?
exactly.
Okay.
Well, but I think they filed it for the town buildings also without,
Yeah.
I think they filed it as, just citizens doing this.
Do we know what the other buildings in town they?
It's
It's the three buildings next, it's the fire station, the old town hall.
Church.
The inn next to the old inn that's a house now. So it's somebody's house.
Yeah.
Frank's house.
So the three, as you look at the fire station, it's the two buildings to the right.
Well, they said the Presbyterian Church,
Is that on
the
there?
Old Town
Oh,
Hall,
that was, I'm
the
sorry.
fire
Yeah.
station, and the library.
Mary Frank, yes.
Not the library, right?
Yeah, the library and Griffin. So it's five buildings.
I thought the
right,
library
kind
was
of
already on.
stretch.
Something I think.
Yeah, whatever it was.
The old fire station?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's historic, but
I don't
Well,
see
it's
it.
old. I don't know if it's a story. Wasn't it built in the 60s?
It's between old and
50s?
historic.
I will let them know that you're coming, and we'll hopefully have somebody at our
Yeah.
next meeting. So, all right. So the next thing is the status of state education funding. So I think you got this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
email.
it's disappointing. I read that. I was expecting another one in front of it.
So
I think that's a well-written, he really lays out a.
Yeah.
I
I think it's
mean,
perfectly
a
reasonable.
couple of things. I have to be honest. I didn't understand what the governor was asking for versus what the legislature had voted
Yeah.
on. So I was very pleased to see that the governor's numbers have additional revenues for the town of Litchfield.
Yes.
Because somewhere, I think I was looking at all the legislative pieces and not what the governor was asking for. And he lays out a case here. The bottom line is that it's now down to, you want to talk about watching sausage being made, because this is where they're going to be in the back room, working on all these figures, trying to figure out how to fund schools going forward. I guess, it's important the public understand that the number we're looking at on this shows that Litchfield stands to gain $420,000 additional dollars in the current fiscal year. So that would be unanticipated revenue. Under the governor's proposal, the legislature had a different dollar amount. Both of them are extra revenue that we would benefit from. So either way you slice it, by the time we get to the end of September, this ought to be settled. So they have a continuing resolution through, I think it goes through September 30th, and just to keep everybody afloat. But this will be ironed out, hopefully, and we'll have an answer, and then we can know exactly where it lands.
And this would be revenue for this year,
It would be
right now?
extra money.
Yeah.
So when we built the
maybe like
budget,
the contract?
well, it's an interesting
It's
point,
interesting.
right? That, again, using the governor's number is $420,000 of unanticipated revenue.
Mhm.
I think the teacher's warrant is $294,000 in the first year, so it would cover the entire warrant and provide property tax relief to taxpayers. So, that's a reference frame to think about what this means. But again, that's money that hasn't arrived yet. We don't
Right,
have the
right.
check.
But we
Um,
will know by September,
I would expect that
October
at
1st, right?
the new deliberative date on October 1st, we would be able to say, this is what extra revenue is coming our way. And I think that will factor into the way voters view
It'll help.
the
Yeah, it'll
question.
help.
It'll help in terms of tax rate calculation for next year as well.
Right. So then the tax impact rate on the warrant would still be the same, right?
Yeah.
Because we still need to raise and appropriate that money, but it
Yeah,
would be
because that's
offset by
gonna
the
go on
revenue.
this, that's gonna go on
the
this
revenue
year's
will
tax.
come back to them afterwards.
I see.
And
good.
and again, I think part of the political process, the governor has written a very nice letter outlining his case. And so it'll be interesting to see how it all lands. And so those are my follow-up items. So you're hit them all.
Right. Well, thank you. That'll bring us community forum.
We've been sitting here a long time.
I just came to say hi.
Thank you for the cookies.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for the cookies.
Yummy.
Okay, so that'll bring us to school board
I don't know
comments.
if I should make for the school board member, not a school, just a quick thing, I want to clarify something. It's been bothering me.
Rob just quit.
You could stay there, Rob.
Put on a
That's
different
okay.
hat.
Rob Myers, 13 Nesson Gig. I just wanted to clarify, I don't know if I should do it here or next Monday. I made one statement last week at the selectmen's meeting where I said I voted against a number of things. And when I said that, I was talking about a number of things on the budget side for the town. we've had discussions. I voted against things I supported after here, but I think I use the words often. I've done that. There are a lot of things at the town I voted for often that I didn't vote my personal feeling because I didn't think it helped the school board. And I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't school-related items.
You've always kept us well informed in
Is that the right
everything
place to
that's
say
good.
this, or should I go Monday and say that?
That's good.
It's on the record now.
So everybody else, school board comments.
2 questions from the budget committee. Is that now or is that later?
Doing that.
They asked for Mike, budget committee asked for a status on the capital planning committee.
We have one,
Thought it was funny because they're not going.
and we met today.
We met
Right,
today?
they would know if their
What
members
does
showed up.
status mean?
Just what's going on.
Progress. We met.
We meet.
Well, I told them, I think they were looking to see if you'd had plans upcoming for the fall.
Yeah, so the meeting today was specific to Siemens
Okay.
project, so it's on energy performance contracting. And our next meeting, I think we're going to meet on the first Wednesday of the month before the board meeting. So our next meeting will be, what's that?
October something.
October 2nd.
Okay. So it's ongoing. I told them it was just in the beginning. And the other question, I had a direct question about the cost of the special election. I told them it's on, I had said it's ongoing. I gave them the number you had given me as the base, but there are other fees involved. So they were just asking if there was a way to forward that to them.
So we have not calculated the cost of the special election. We can do that if that's, did the budget committee vote to request that?
No, it's just asked. Yeah, it's just asked.
So, I mean, if the board would like to ask us to pull those numbers, we have not calculated that. We have approximate estimated amounts, but we can do it.
And I told them you couldn't get the full amount till after the election, but the actual amount,
Right.
that's correct, right?
Well, we
Yeah,
could calculate.
I don't know what it
Cost to
relates. I don't know
date.
when it relates to anything, but personally, but
I would just
Rob,
ask-
if they had asked me that question, I would answer it the way I have to Dr. Jetty more than once, that for the few $1,000s it's going to cost us to get a teacher contract.
I did,
No, but I mean, that's my feeling. It's peanuts.
It is.
and I
To
did.
get a
answer
3-year
that.
contract for the teachers and just to like continue on smoothly.
And I told them I did make a point of saying the added expense that if it was not to pass, we'll have to go through the whole process again and fall, since it actually saved them the town money.
I have a question.
Okey doke.
And I guess, yeah, where does it end? I mean, do we go all the way back to like legal costs from the day after election? Do we include yesterday? I think I
Negotiating
talked to
contact.
Mike Elwell about
I mean,
6
Yeah.
hours.
personally, this is just personally me, I would think you take what it cost us for the last election and just that, it's a total cost. It's not gonna end until the next election, right? If it doesn't pass this time, it's gonna keep going and going and going, so.
And we're going to save money because we're just,
Well, and that's what-
the little
that's what
paper
it's-
in the box.
That was it.
My question is, and maybe the audience can answer this.
Heidi.
When is the playground going to open at GMS? The kids are dying to get on that playground.
Do you have an
It-
update on it?
so the shade, the last piece goes in. I think they're coming back next Tuesday to finish that. But I need to get Primex down here to do a safety inspection on the playground before we can open it. So we're getting there. We're close. I can see if Primex can give us clearance to go until they can get down here, but I don't know how far out they're scheduling because they're busy at this point.
Okay, I just,
I'll do my best.
Hopefully they can do it before the mulch freezes.
I'm just happy it was
right.
substantially completed before the doors opened. I just wish the kids could use it.
it's a tease.
I know.
It is.
We'll see what we can do to get that moving ahead,
Yeah.
because
Primex
there's
is
nothing
coming.
worse than, look at all the shiny new
There are-
stuff you
there
can't
are-
touch.
Sandpaper.
Probably liability.
Stay away from those. So I just got a couple of questions about buses. Here we are, day 2. Well, there are whatever parents out there listening, because I understand the first day, it takes a little time, especially with kindergartners and that process. But day 2 is worse than day 1. and I realized the bus broke down, which is disappointing. We don't have all our new ones that we were promised. We have, and because of that, I don't know why the decision was made to have a bus that already had kids on it, stop picking up kids instead of going to school. So you get the middle school showing up at 8:00. You have GMS showing up a half an hour late. I brought Zoe to school because I had to meet someone, and I brought her at like 8:30, and I told the person at the window, she's early. She goes, she looks at the clock, she said, and Mary goes, she's early? I go, yeah, her bus ain't here yet, so she's early. It's just frustrating, you know.
It is.
And it
It's
is too
incredibly frustrating.
for her, because she wanted to take the bus, but I couldn't have her take the bus because I couldn't have her sitting on the street corner. And that's what I've been observing like the last 2 mornings is more kids just sitting on the street corner waiting and waiting and waiting.
I see them.
And I'll tell you, it's disappointing. And if we're starting the school year like this already with this company,
I know.
then something has to change.
Yeah. I agree. Our bus was the LMS bus, so it wasn't even GMS
Right.
waiting for kindergartners to get on. Our bus was 12 minutes late out the gate,
Right.
first stop.
The high school buses
On the
were all
first day
there
of
on
school.
day one. I saw them all. I counted.
Bus 3 has been on time,
Yeah,
but
bus
last year not at all.
Yeah.
So there's an
Well-
improvement there.
And then the other thing is, and it should be regular, and I don't know if it's the AD or if it's the bus company, but every year, the first day of school, girls soccer and boys soccer at LMS
They didn't
get
have a bus.
shipped to Darren. Well, there it is, 3:00. Where's the bus?
Kids had to walk up to the high school to meet their parents, a bunch of boys,
No.
because they were at their brother's soccer game.
So the bus didn't come, and then the bus company said, well, it's a new driver on bus 2. I don't care if it's a new driver. That bus driver should have been instructed by the bus company what they're supposed to do. So it's not the new buses or anything else. It's still the same management, the bus company. And it's getting really frustrating, especially where we just signed another 5-year contract with these people, and we can't get our stuff together at the beginning of the school year.
So we have a meeting coming up with their general manager and their office manager here in Nashua, coming up on the 13th, next Friday, I believe. And we're going to address a lot of these concerns, and we'll work our way through the first couple weeks. There's always bumps, which I know is frustrating.
But
Routes have some changes again. Like, it's just,
I know, but when you do something the same way, like every year, then all of a sudden it's like, well, there's a new bus driver. That doesn't mean anything.
yeah, no, they,
You're giving
yeah,
them the
It's
sign.
not
Agreed.
acceptable.
agreed.
And I know like all our new buses aren't here. So of course, one of them broke down. But I question one of the buses that is supposed to be new because it happens to be the one to pick up my child. And you look at it and you can see that, you know, the steps are worn. So I don't know how old this bus is, but this didn't come from the factory.
You know, what bus number?
7.
Yeah,
And you
we'll
think
ask
that's a
them.
new bus?
It looks similar to all the others. Again, I haven't gone
So-
inside the bus, so I don't know.
So
but-
one of the things, when we met with Sean, so when he explained that the buses were all shipped, but then 2 of them had some fender bender, so they couldn't put them on the road. But he said, I'll make sure that the buses you have are all the same fleet. A couple will be older, but you're not going to have the old buses. So the
Right.
one that says Brooklyn on the side is gone.
Right. No, it's not old. Like I said, it's similar. So is this
Yeah.
one just in place
It's a
of
temporary
wait for a
one
new
until the brand new one
Okay.
arrives. That's my understanding. I don't know the exact numbers, but we'll get that from him.
Okay.
And like what Corey's hinting at is that when we met with Sean, who is sort of the manager of the yard here in Nashua, we set up a monthly meeting with First Student and said, we're going to meet with you every month. We're going to talk our way through issues, and we're not going to do another repeat of last year.
No.
So
But it's easy to blame the bus drivers. They need to back their employees.
Yes, they
It's
do.
not an easy job. Oh, they should have a backup plan for these poor new bus drivers. I don't want to blame them. It's a
Right.
tough job.
You have new drivers coming into a new town.
Mhm.
To me, one dry run of a bus route
It's
isn't
not
going to
gonna do
teach
it.
somebody how to do the route. You got to do that a couple times. You got to go around, kind of study it, ride with them if you have to. Like, I think there is a lack of training, and yeah, they need to take responsibility for some of these things.
So we talked when we were drafting the contract, we talked about there has to be some kind of repercussion if they're not delivering the service that they said they would provide. So what does that look like?
I don't remember we worked
There's
into
a
it.
complaint structure where you have to give them written, they want written complaints and it goes through a time frame. So, and they need to be given time to address it. So maybe we need to start
I would
hitting
start
them
writing
with
those
some.
complaints, yeah.
I'll be interested tomorrow as far as what time the buses get there, because, the first day,
And how
like I
many
said, I
of
can
our
understand it.
parents call,
Yeah.
'cause
Mine
they're
was
not
12 minutes
supposed
late
to call
also,
Shell anymore.
but then the next
We
day
don't know how
was
many
even
parents have
later
called there.
because of whatever bus broke down or they didn't have a bus. So,
We have asked the parents do contact First Student
Yes.
directly and not
Someone
call the
posted
SAU
it
with
again
everything.
tonight
And
on
we're not going to
Facebook.
be, at least the first couple weeks, we're not going to be changing, adding,
Mhm.
deleting, doing all these like we did last year. And it got ridiculous.
Mhm.
It took too much time off
no,
of
and
Michelle's.
it should go through the bus company.
You know, it needs to go through the bus company with formal requests coming to our office for review.
There have been some that I've handled
Yep.
at the request of the bus company.
Yep.
I've, talked to parents
Yeah.
and stops were missed, or, maybe the address was wrong or something like that. So we have fixed that, but I did tell some parents today that we are not making any changes until October 1st. Whether that holds or not, I don't know, but that's what we are telling them.
And then the other question I had, and Scott's not here, so I know, I think you said you're going to be going down to GMS. What so I thought when we met the last time, we had kind of like a solution that might work as far as the pickup and takeoff, but it seems that didn't happen.
Well, so Scott implemented some changes relative to the end of the day piece.
Right.
But I know that the buses were late getting to GMS yesterday. I'm not sure about today.
They were
There
late
were
today
no,
as well.
there was one bus there at 10 of 3,
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
one
mean,
waiting on the side street.
I think you had one that arrived at like 3:20 yesterday. So,
So bus 9 again, I'm coming back. I went to get a coffee. I'm coming back down Page Road. I passed parents going up into Hudson, and 10 minutes later, I came back. Parents are still sitting out there. I'm like,
Oh, boy.
bus 9 again. Like, can't seem to get it right on that bus route. Breaks down in the morning, is late in the afternoon. So
and I don't know how it's going. I in the morning, I guess when you do drop off at GMS, you now have to take a right-hand turn out of the parking lot.
Right.
So that was the SRO has suggested, look, force everybody to turn right, and then if they have to go left, they can go back through the parking lot, the big parking lot,
Right.
and then turn left in front of Rich's house. So
They are not, they're turning around in the apartment complex diagonally across the street.
You know,
And the fire
complex will put a
station.
sign up before you know it.
so they're still going right, which is the
No, they can turn, they could turn there.
Instead of going through the parking lot, they're
Yeah.
just going straight,
got it.
spinning around.
Mr. Chairman, I know you mentioned something about going to pick up students at a private program, right? You said. And that is true. We did ask for a student about a shuttle, and they said they don't do that. So we had to
I
really juggle those routes to get that
So
done.
I'd still like to,
didn't, what you suggested, is that what he implemented?
In the afternoon.
Yeah, what Brian suggested. I
well,
haven't been there in so
having,
long.
he's having someone at the first door,
Mhm.
and then he has 2 people at the second door, checking the kids out. So, and that it makes certain that someone doesn't come in that other door,
That's
Right.
smart, yeah.
which is great. But then I read in his email, now he's having cars parked on the playground.
Which freaks me out.
So I don't understand it,
Freaks me
especially
out.
where kids are playing there right afterwards,
Or
Yeah.
not, because they can't play the playground.
but it's still not allowing the buses to get loaded. Correct.
That's why, yeah.
I need to go down and see exactly what it looks like in the afternoon because I'm not clear on that piece.
So-
And the other thing that I would suggest when you do go down, because I thought about that, like kindergarten holds everything up. So it seems like it'd be real simple and to get kindergarten out, if it's 5-10 minutes early, do exactly what they do like during lunchtime. You get rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Whatever kid's taking a bus, that's where they line up. Right? And
And
then
they're
just,
4th grade partners though.
Yeah, that's okay.
right, but they just line up
Mhm.
and then they bring the kindergartners on the bus first. You get them all on
That's
here.
what they did. That's what they did the first day of school. And they were out there waiting for 45 minutes for the buses to show up.
It's a long time to wait with the kindergarten.
Outside on the blacktop.
They were out there at 10 of today.
So
And the buses weren't there. But I mean, if the buses were there, I'm saying like a simple solution, get the kindergartners, come out a few minutes early, get them on the bus first, then release everyone at the right.
Everybody
Well,
at the
see,
same
that's how we do it at
time.
my school. At my school, they call the kindergartners and first graders down first, and then they get on the buses,
What we
and
do
then
at
they
my
call
school.
second, third, and fourth. And parent pickup at my school is all in the cafeteria. So the after school program is in the cafeteria. They start by like keeping all the kids on one side of the cafeteria,
Mhm.
and then as the kids come down, so I bring the kindergartners down, and then the first graders come down. They line up according to their grade, sitting on the floor in the cafeteria.
The pickup kids.
The pickup kids.
Yeah.
The parents come in, they fill out a little slip of paper with who their kid is and who they are. And then they walk past the lines of kids, they get their kids, and then they check out and go out the door.
I thought he held things up. I thought that the buses weren't loaded till every pickup kid was accounted for,
I think that's still true.
which I've never seen in any of the 9 schools I've worked at.
I'm not sure that's still true. I know that was true last year.
I thought his email said that
Yeah.
they're going to have 2 people at the outside door.
Right.
And then they're both going to have to combine lists and cross-check it in the office before they're
Which is
gonna
what they
dismiss
do.
the kids. Right.
Before they let the buses
Before
go.
they let the
They
buses
all
go.
should go at once. That's what every school I've worked in has done. I don't.
Agree.
Do they hold up your kids at your school? What do they?
No.
No, they all go at once.
Yeah, well, the buses are in a different lane than the parent
Mhm.
pickup.
I don't like the parking on the playground, but I haven't seen it. I thought it would be creepy if I just pulled over and watched the person. Like, I don't know why they don't do pick up the way they do drop off in the morning. Why do those 2 buses sit there when you can have the parents all lined up again? I don't know. Nobody gets out of their car. I don't know. It's good. It's
Yeah.
just
Well,
the
you
way
wouldn't
the
have to worry about,
school's set
you wouldn't have
up.
to
and-
worry about parking doing it that way.
Right.
I know school, the
And
elementary school. in
typically,
Hudson
Brian,
is
you've
that way,
been there more than I have. Is it
That's how we
typically
do
the
it.
same kids every day get picked up by their parents?
For the most part, yeah.
There is how many do you think there are?
Well, let's put it this way. I was gonna go pick Zoe up today
Mhm.
because I knew the buses were late.
Mm-hmm.
The only
And-
reason I didn't is
Right.
because I knew she wanted to take the bus, or
Right.
she gets mad at me if she
And
doesn't
I
take the
think
bus.
if we had the buses getting out on time, I think a lot fewer parents would pick up. Their
She got
kids.
home.
Do you think that's true?
At-
Yeah, that's.
Zoe got home at 10 minutes of 4 today.
Jeez. My God.
That's an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
That's why
if the
a lot of
buses got
kids
out
get
on
picked up,
time, then
because
they
you
were
wrote
kids.
it in your email that why should my kid sit on a bus till 3:15 until they even move?
Mhm.
Yeah, but literally the bus wasn't there. So
Oh, I know. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah, that's a
different.
whole
Yeah,
other
that's
issue.
just
I think it's a
Let's look down the
combination
road
of
like a month
issues.
or 2 and the buses finally get there on time. You know,
Yeah.
And then resolve it.
All right, so we got to get this right. But my understanding is they're not holding the kiddos waiting for the bus, but I could be incorrect about that. So
I was there yesterday because I was copying the PTO packets. They waited and
Yeah.
cross-checked yesterday. I can't say for today.
I mean, on first day, I guess you want to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody gets somewhere, but you ought to not be doing that daily, I would think. So let's see what we can figure out.
I don't know. I know of a certain kindergarten teacher who let 2 kids go home on the wrong bus. But what happened to them? They came back to the school, and one's parent was there to pick them up because they didn't get off the bus, and then the other one was supposed to go to the after school
How
program.
did we survive?
Huh?
How did we survive?
My kids survived. Well, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. I didn't put 2 kids on the
But
wrong
it's
bus.
the parent's
It's a-
responsibility to I'm going to dad's house tonight. I'm going to the after school on
It's
Tuesday and
tricky.
Thursday. It's a lot.
The kids have a hard time remembering.
But that's why you request notes.
Yeah, the notes kill me too.
Well, and speaking from the parent hat for a second, so my school district implemented the pickup patrol this year.
Yeah.
And so I
Like,
It's like Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I was thinking.
so actually I thought, I'm like, oh, great. Now I got to download another app that, I don't. It's a login on a website. It's really pretty slick. It came pre-populated. It's a calendar and it just says, basically my kids take bus 9 every day. Bus 9 is on time in Merrimack Valley. Bus 9 every day. And then if I go in and say, except on Thursday, they have dance class, so mom will pick them up. boom, the teacher gets an email and it just tells them that day, here's what happened. So it's all reconciled. And they said if it's not in by, I don't remember what the deadline was, but if it's not in there by a certain time, then it won't allow you to change it. They're getting on bus 9 because that's
Yeah.
what it says. That's the default. So it's
We have
interesting.
ours. I had to do my 18 homeroom kids, exactly where they are, what days. You're a walker, you're bus 15 in the morning, you're a walker in the afternoon, or a P for pickup.
Mhm.
or
Yeah,
D
I
for drive,
have charts and diagrams and lists and checklists because you don't want to put kindergartners on the wrong bus.
Nope. I guess we can revisit it when the buses are rolling in a couple of weeks on time.
On time.
And I think this is also something that can be revisited at open house coming up next week.
Yep.
You know, maybe something to the parents.
Let us know where your kids are going. There've been a couple of Facebook moms, please let us know. Deb Leary put something out there
Yep.
where your child is going in the afternoon.
Yeah. And now that parent communication folders have gone home, it's easier for parents to send in notes and things and actually have them be seen by a teacher in the office. And those handy dandy PTO notebooks
Mhm.
for signing out, especially at JMS, are very helpful.
Here's my last one. Sunday copies.
You make copies.
They're white.
They're $5.
You know,
I know you can get one.
where?
I know you can get one.
Do you want to hit the delegates assembly or do you want me to?
No, you can go.
So just briefly, if you remember last year, the delegates assembly, who attended? Tara, I think you attended, right?
No, me.
Tina,
Well, Tina did.
was that the question?
And we had come up with the question relative to manifest hardships, right? And so we engaged in the process. So here it is again. Basically, submissions are due by November 4th. So if you have something that you think ought to be included, be thinking
Didn't we
about it now.
miss the deadline by some
Yeah.
small?
We did
so
last
can't we
time.
resubmit?
We missed the
Submit that?
deadline, but
That's why I
then
had
we
to go.
introduced it from the floor.
Oh, I see.
And then we had a friendly amendment from another district
Oh,
that
yeah.
liked it. And so in the end, it passed. I mean, it was really a good process. So I guess what we're looking for is who would like to go this year? And if you have an idea for a resolution, we can be thinking about it and getting it written prior to the deadline of November 4th.
When's the date?
It'll be in January. They haven't
It's
given us-
January 29th or something like that.
It was a nice day. It was good to meet other school district board members and learn more about school boarding.
Oh, it's January 27th,
What's the date, Michelle?
January 25th.
All right.
All right. Bring us to public minutes, August 19th, 2019.
Can I do them both at once or do I have to do them separate?
You can do them separate.
Make a motion to approve the August 19th minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Approve the August 21st, 2019 minutes.
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Zero. Okay, the principal reports to read at our leisure. Yeah, that'll bring us to the VA report.
So Michelle's going to send around the cover sheets for the DOE 25 and MS 25 for the board signature. I'm currently working on the report. Will be submitted by Friday to the DOE. It's part of the tax rate setting. So that'll be completed, submitted to the state.
Corey, when that is done in final form, will you email it to the board?
I absolutely will.
Yeah.
So share it with the board.
So you'll
And
have it.
we can discuss the numbers and such. Then also for the meeting on the 18th, we're digging down into and drilling down into the food service a little bit more to get better feel of the revenue numbers and such. There are some things that Mike and Lauren and the accountant in the district have discussed in terms of, you know, what were the things that could have been impacting those things. So we're going to dig into some things. There was adjustment in some staffing hours that related to benefits that came into play. Portion sizes at the high school. In the past, they were serving portions to the high school students that are what you would serve an elementary student.
Yeah.
So you're feeding a football lineman
Mhm.
in elementary school. So they're buying additional lunches. They're buying a la carte. Now the portion sizes are the right size. They're buying one meal instead of two.
Yeah.
Can have an impact on your revenue in that way. We're going to look a little bit into that. And then the equipment investment that we've made into the program. There's been some expensive capital expenditure in terms of equipment and reconfiguration of the kitchen and such like that. So I'll come in with a listing of what those expenses are. It's looking at this point that we are done with that investment, getting that in so we can start to move forward with the program as it should be. So
It's all at CHS.
there's new equipment at LMS and GMS as well, and we reconfigured the kitchen at GMS. So, as I said, we're going to drill more into those things, and we'll have a more extensive report on the 18th, and Lauren will be here to discuss it as well.
Can I just make a comment that a couple of people have said? The lunch menus are on the district website, not on the school websites, and people can't find the lunch menu. You have to go to the district. April's menu was on LMS webpage.
Yeah.
GMS is up to date. I didn't look at Campbell,
Take care of that.
but
She
It's on
usually,
the
she
drop-
usually
it's on the-
tweets them out and sends them out through Facebook as well. So there
Yeah.
are other ways to get to them.
I didn't see them on
Oh,
Facebook.
yeah, sorry.
She may not have done it this
I'll
month.
tell.
It's in a weird place.
I have them linked
Yeah.
to my
What's in the
website and I have,
The
yeah,
menus
one of them
are
works,
on the
one
district
doesn't.
page under
It's under
something,
food service.
under food service, and you have to scroll down. Usually you go on GMS and then there's a happy menu with the tiger. What?
Is that on there? 'Cause I thought
It's
I
on
went to-
GMS. It
Yeah,
looks great,
awesome.
but LMS is still April.
It's the wrong
I
one.
thought all three of them were there because
They have a new
did all
person
menus
that's
the
doing
other
the
day.
website. She's been trained here.
We'll make sure they're more accessible.
That would be
But
awesome.
shouldn't those be links to this? We should put it in one spot.
You would think.
On
And
the
then just
district
link-
site?
And then link it to each.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds much more.
We just go to Litchfield School. to get it. All three. You don't have to go to GMS to get it or LMS to get it. It's all right there on the page.
Or if you go to LMS and you click the link, it just sends you to the same location. Like you
Yeah.
put it in one
Right,
location.
like
So
a
we'll figure out how to
redirect.
streamline that, but
That's awesome.
we shouldn't have three people linking three different
Everybody?
documents, right?
Great.
It just, a cup, what?
Nothing.
She's slacking over
Thanks.
there.
Wow. Speaking of links or whatever, on the homepage, I went to school board calendar. It's like the first 6 months of this year and there's nothing else except the last 6 months of last year. So you get that colorful calendar for the 6 months of 18 and 6 months of 19.
Are you talking about the picture?
No, the calendar. It has all the little color boxes.
Thought I put the
You're
one
on the
there.
district page?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me
When I pulled it up,
let me go to it. So district, this calendar at the bottom?
nope, school board.
No. Go scroll back up.
Uh-oh, hang on.
Uh-oh.
I broke it. Broke the internet.
Go on the school board.
I believe that's where I pulled it up.
Is it under overview? I think on that page.
Maybe it's on the district.
Meeting calendar?
Yep.
So that's the 18-19 meeting.
Oh, okay.
So we
So
can
I
update
didn't
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, it's got 6 months of 18, 6
Yeah.
months of 19.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
So that's last year. So
Yep.
I'll get it.
Okay. So,
And
got
while
my
we're
pen.
on website issues, can we add the court order and any new notices to the news, the district news page where we have the special election?
Court order and what?
Maybe the announcement about the updated schedule, the deliberative on the 1st and the election day on the 29th. And
Announce new dates. Yep.
thank you.
Yeah.
Update that.
I don't remember that reduced school lunch, Corey, form coming home
my
in
God.
years past.
Oh, yeah, we got to.
So that,
Yeah, we
it sounds
now-
like you're being
we're
more
sending them- we're
proactive
sending
with that.
them- Yeah, Lauren's making sure they're sent out to everybody,
Yeah.
just so they're
Talked
out
about that
there.
last year.
Well,
So-
that's good to
Yeah.
try to avoid, try
Yeah,
to get
and
people
just,
to sign up and avoid.
most people don't know
balances.
where to ask or what to
Right.
do about it. So she decided we're going to send them out with every
That's
kid. And
Good.
if they need
Yeah.
them, they'll fill them out.
I know.
Yes, good.
That brings us to the manifest. Any questions?
Got all the signatures.
Brings to public input.
And other,
Oh, and bring us cookies.
Thank you very much. Brings to non-public, RSA 91-A:311. Dismiss of promotion or compensation of any public employee or discipline of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected, one, has a right to a meeting, and two, requested a meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person or as a public employee. C, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or its agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
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 Yes. No, no.
Mike and Brian, do you need me?